Nobody can drive me crazy. For me, it's just a short walk.
Well, yeah, that's true. You're halfway.
Okay, Chris.
Halfway there.
Hint taken.
And he's second now.
Sound check. Sound check. Oh. Let's see how many people we got. We got 4.
Got a few.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Or one more than a few.
Yeah. I'll need to remember to say this later too, but I just found out there may be a very good meteor shower next week at this time, roughly. So, well,
It'll be
it's way
after dark.
We'd have to wait another hour and a half or two anyhow, no matter what the weather is. So the live stream may get shortened next week because if we're getting 40 meteors per second, I'm going to head down the road to where I can get a good view of it. You know, love y'all.
It'll be raining and cloudy.
like that lunar eclipse the other night.
Yeah. The clouds moved in about an hour before.
Yeah, it was funny because I'm sitting there, I'm just on YouTube or whatever, and I get things that one comes up and says lunar eclipse live. You know, I'm like, live now? What the heck? 40 per second, maybe 100,000 per hour, possibly. Okay, Chris? Yeah, it could be historic proportions. I don't know, but the comet that leaves this particular stream of particles disintegrated last time around the sun. So we just happened to hit that clump. It's going to get epic. Okay, if not,
It'll be fun to watch.
it'll just be the usual Tau meteor shower.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry. Hey, David.
Yeah.
So anyhow, just letting y'all know that next week we may cut out early for the meteor shower. We shall see what happens.
See what the weather's like.
Yeah. You know, that say it was only a live stream. Lunar eclipse, and it's like, cool. Open the door.
Clouded over.
Well, it must have eclipsed really well because I can't see any sign of a moon out there. All I can see is clouds. Yeah. One time I was in Phoenix doing a kettle corn gig. I had to get up at like 4 a.m. to go set up and stuff. And I get up and I'm looking to the west, and there's the full moon, or what should be a full moon. It's a crescent moon, but the points are pointing the wrong way. They're pointing up. If you got a crescent moon in the early morning hours, the point should be pointing down. I'm looking at it going, what the heck? I thought, are you having a lunar eclipse? I checked, and sure enough, it was a lunar eclipse. But I'm like reviewing my knowledge of the geometry here, and it's like, no,
that's wrong.
Yeah, that's just wrong, man. I don't know. It's a little bit disorienting when my brain gets, sees something that's like, well, that's not supposed to happen.
You do the double take. Yeah. Wait a minute.
I start double check the math in the brain here. Let's see. So, yeah, no, that doesn't work. But yeah, that was interesting. But we'll see. It's been pretty cloudy on a fairly consistent basis here.
Yeah.
So,
well,
we'll see what happens. Anyhow, primarily right now, hey, Mr. Lodak, Eva, well, you might have just heard a baking timer go off, and in a normal household, that would mean there's some food about to come out of the oven. But in this whole household, it means the Cupels are going to come out of the oven because she's already removed 11% moisture content
out of the Cupels.
Cool.
What are you doing by weight? What do you weigh them and then weigh them after you dry them?
Exactly.
Wow.
And
11%.
It can cause them to crack. And so we've had some cracking. And Lauren said it could be moisture in them. When they just sit there.
That's cool.
Yeah, Terry, I can understand that. They really don't know.
My are done. You can all breathe now.
But anyhow, so they didn't fall. They're still.
No, they didn't fall. fall. They didn't crumble. They haven't cracked.
Just splat out on the cookie sheet.
I hate it when my Cupel
His
falls.
falls, yeah.
But
Deflate your.
so she's baking them. She did, what was it, 350 for 1 hour first?
Yep.
And they
That's what I
lost
did the second
11%
time, too.
moisture content. So then she baked them for another hour, and we'll see if they've lost any more moisture. If they haven't, then we know that 1 hour at 350 is
Yeah.
fine. Then she's going to put it in a Ziploc. Yeah. Oh, and Terry, you know what always cracks me up too? When you have one of these things, I noticed it during the Challenger disaster, where all these news people are trying to keep talking when they really have nothing to say. It was, it blew up. They're dead. Voila,
Hey, Zioxio.
Yeah. Hey, Zioxio. Yeah. Nice to see you. Yeah, there was something. Did you ever find out anything on that research without going into details on the internet here? Or you've been too busy? Let's see. Supposedly a meteor shower next week at about this time. May be really good. Don't know.
After dark.
Yeah. So after dark, if you don't have clouds, you might want to look
If you're
up.
in the Pacific or mountain zone, if you're
Hey,
east
William.
of us, it's going to be while the sun is still up.
No. Well,
Yeah,
you're west of us. Sun goes down there before it goes down over here.
Well, anyway, it starts at like 10 p.m. Pacific on Monday.
What were the dates of operation on that one, Zioxio? Hi, William. How's it going? Hey, BC.
Hey,
Ladies.
Bryce.
Well, I'm halfway there, I guess. I'm transitioning
Smartass.
involuntarily. Okay, thank you, Zioxio. Just curious on that one. I'm guessing from how things look, probably around 1900 is just a guess, but it'd be interesting. Oh, well, things happen sometimes, William. It wasn't much fun, but yeah. Really interesting, Zioxio. Thank you. This week, Eve and I have been primarily focused out at the mill. She's been handling virtually all of the lab work. I don't think you're pouring crucibles yet, are you, little one?
No.
Okay. She's, I think, a little concerned about, pouring the crucibles right yet, but we were doing some tests of all different kinds. You saw the videos with the silver chloride tests. So, hey, Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
And that was disappointing in that not only did we lose a significant fraction of the silver, but it also seemed to inhibit the recovery of the gold. So that wasn't good. Huh. Interesting, Zioxio. Montana, William. Oh, we've got it there. If she's just getting used to handling stuff and everything. She was doing a pretty good job with the baking the resin beads. She was baking, it was 25-gram sample, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it was less than, it was like 15.
It was a 13.04 grams.
13.04 gram sample was reduced to less than a gram of ash and residue over 7-8 hours?
7.5.
7.5 hours at
900
800 degrees. That was only 800, little one.
800 covered.
Yeah. Nope, Chris. So she's just getting confidence. I mean, I'm always right there anyhow, so if she needs it poured, she just comes and gets me. So the silver chloride did not work as well as metallic silver as an in-quart, which was disappointing because silver chloride is really easy to get, as you saw from the video. It's real easy to precipitate and purify. We're going to be next trying a electrolytic cell. We can always cement it with copper. We know that'll work. But we're planning on needing an electrolytic cell for testing elution anyhow. So we want to get an electrolytic cell with copper anodes and cathodes. Get that all together. Should be done in a week or so. Not a big deal. We have most of the parts except for the copper rods, and those are in transit right now. One of the reasons that we want to try elution is because smelting the gold, you have got a real good chance of some significant losses. Like when she roasted that resin, we apparently got about a 25% loss. And that's just unacceptable.
That's
once you've got to that point, once you're at 10% gold.
That's too much.
Okay, let me.
Well, I'm going to reread that part of the book about slimes.
Let me do this here just a second here and save this.
See what
Since
you
our
can
book
learn.
is.
Yeah, I know what
our
it is
gold
there.
is like
Okay.
slimes.
Okay, so legend. Okay, I'll just star this. Okay. We'll see if Eva wants that or not. I'm not sure she really likes that style, but I'll show that. But anyhow, and so that's just too high a loss. And also a lot of time and low throughput. If we get this thing going,
it might be, Lars.
I don't know. Some kind of pokey, yeah. The hokey pokey. Would that be a really funky jail? But anyhow, so let's say the fluxing and furnacing and smelting the resin seems to take a lot of flux to get it to work right, and low throughput. I mean, if you were doing this,
on a bigger scale,
if we were planning on maybe needing to be able to do like 300 grams a week just to keep up.
Right.
Well, at 300 grams a week is that would be like 30 10-gram samples. At 2 per whack and 4 hours total processing time from start through parting, cupelling, etc. That adds up to a lot of time and money.
It's a full-time job.
So we're going to try and see if we can come up with an elution solution. Yeah, sounds about right, Terry. Always have a charged water hose handy. And one reason that we're interested in the elution is, again, this video is not up yet, but we tried, after our discussions last week, we decided to try using a salt and potassium chloride brine to try and extract the iron from the resin while leaving the gold. Thinking, the iron consumes some of the litharge and this and that and the other.
Right.
And when we did, you could clearly see a lot of iron coming out. Okay. I mean, it was getting pretty dark colored. And I was looking for some, darker than that manila envelope over there.
Okay.
And so once we'd done that for like 24 hours and we changed it once, then we rinsed the beads and fluxed them and we're looking at it looks like we lost about 20%. We had the solution assay and it looked like, well, that looks like that might be where it is. I mean, it's within the balance. So it's like, well, kind of the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
It doesn't do you any good, and it doesn't get you all the gold. But it does show that the gold can get released from the resin fairly easily, you know. So by using a proper setup.
Address Polka Face's
Okay.
comment there.
It's not gravel. It's microfine gold, and the standard method for using it is illegal in Montana, which would be cyanide. And since cyanide was outlawed due to the environmentalists getting an initiative passed, we have to come up with another method. We have to crush the rock. That's straightforward, stuff. But then use a chemical solution to dissolve it. So there's non-toxic solutions nowadays.
Hello, Simo.
Hello, Simo. So anyhow, and this is kind of right on the bleeding edge. They will sell you a $7,000 autoclave.
Oh yeah. No.
And
if you can throw
$3,000
if you can throw enough
cell.
money at it, anything's possible. It's trying to do it on a budget that would be economic to continue to do it.
And I get very concerned when it says this will work for either resin or carbon. This stuff will just replace you. No matter what circuit you're using, this will work. Right away I go.
Well, another thing, Polka, is anytime you're mining, especially in hard rock mining, every ore body is going to be different, and the things that are in it, you have to figure out ways to get that separation and get that breakdown to get those, valuable minerals out. And economically, but every mine isn't going to be the exact same program. It's not like you can take this program and go grab that ore over there and it's going to work. There's always adjustments and fine tuning and to get there where you get your recovery.
Well, think of it as like packaging. There's some standard packaging solutions, but not everything will fit in a standard solution.
Standard box.
And even then, different solutions are better for different products. So you have to kind of customize things no matter what. You have to do a series of tests, even if it works perfectly with the normal system. In this case, there is no normal system that's legal. So we're kind of having to invent this. This stuff's been around for, I don't know, a year, maybe two. So we're really on the bleeding edge here. Even the guys at Montana Tech don't know the answers to the questions. So,
and that's saying something.
Yeah, and those guys are pretty smart.
Yeah, those are some smart people over there that are doing this stuff every day.
It's just that it's that new that people haven't done that much with it yet. So since the salt got it out to some extent, Chris was saying that if you put it in an electrolytic cell with a salt brine, you're going to create a perchlorate ion, which he thinks will be even more efficient at stripping the gold off of the resin. So,
Xioxio's got a pretty good question there.
What they've got.
Yeah, they're kind of in the dark a little with their own product from
the guy I'm talking to. And he's even selling stuff in South America. One guy I know in Central America.
Yeah.
Because he's coming down. He's going to be trying to pick his brain down there.
Yeah.
He's going to be selling the product. But the problem with this guy, in my opinion, is he's not a theoretician. He's a salesperson.
Yeah.
And just like if you've got a Chevrolet, and you want to know what it's supposed to do, you can talk to the salesman.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know how it does it and how to make it do something different, you're either going to be a mechanic or an engineer.
Find the engineer who built it.
Yeah. And so, let's say, we're kind of feeling our way here, but that makes it kind of fun. Anyhow, as Eva was saying the other day, I'm a scientist, and we're doing it kind of the old-fashioned way by guess and by gosh,
and trial and error. You test it and check it, and then try a different method.
Yeah, just keep the acids away from the cyanide, Simo. With cyanide and the carbon, I'm familiar with that. That's fairly simple, but the stripping solution is pretty nasty stuff. Yeah, exactly, Chris. And so anyhow, I say we're working on a bunch of different things. It's kind of that's possible, Zeoxio. You can talk around and see if anyone's interested. Um, but so we're yeah, you can ask around. If somebody wants to work on how to get it out of the resin or whatever, that would be really cool. Exactly. The only negative is then it becomes public knowledge. Well, I don't know. You might be able to have some kind of a confidentiality agreement in that.
To a certain extent, maybe. It depends on how it's.
Yeah, kind of tricky. But I don't have any theoretical objection to that concept. But anyhow, so I say we're trying all these different things and keeping records and seeing what happens and the IP.
Intellectual property, maybe?
Yeah.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow, as the silver chloride doesn't do what we want it to do, so we have to do something else. But as I say, we're setting up an electrolytic cell to work on.
Are you building the cell then, or are you buying? You're just a small cell.
Yeah, we got. Actually, I got 2 power supplies now. One came up from Tucson too.
I remember.
But we got that little power supply. It's very nice and digital and everything.
Oh, good.
And so I ordered. They're 10 8mm by 100mm carbon rods, so I can set up some arrays. Basically. And then we can try different things and see what happens. What's his name? Rock Butcher's friend got a hold of me. Aqua Regia, didn't work.
It kind of got a little bit radical.
It was interesting to watch. And we had to take it outside. The reaction went out of control, but it did not effectively strip the gold from the resin, unfortunately. On the other hand, chemistry works different when you got electricity pushing it. So this is why having an electrolytic cell, because I mean, we could take one of those cartridges, for example, and stick an electrode down the cart, just have a separate lid, you just screw the lid off, have one with a carbon rod, stick it down there and circulate your solution through it.
Possibly plated,
and you might be able to do something there. Anyhow, we'll do it simple and cheap to start with, and then see if we can get anything that seems to work and then kind of scale it up. But those experiments are in the future. And it is. It's also, if we're able to strip the resin, it would be ideal if we could then reactivate the resin or leave it in an activated form so we could reuse it. Currently, we're budgeting destruction of the resin, but it's not the sort of thing that is ideal. I say ideally you strip it cheaply and effectively and reactivate it all at the same time and put it back in circuit.
Right.
That would be the best thing. We shall see what we shall see. But we got loads of testing before we throw up our hands at that. We're just haven't even got started. So that's in the works here. What else? Oh, the tabletop kilns. First of all, I want to thank Chris again, because he's been a great help in finding the wire and this, that, and the other. He knows these suppliers and such. That wire, we were over at Lauren's, and we just little one, hold the center of this wire here when Lauren holds the other 2 ends while I'm checking the ohmage, and it's like a little farther. Okay, there, we're at 10 ohms right here. Cut it. Okay, now how long is that? 20 feet.
Okay.
So to get the right About $14 a pound, I think, Xioxio. It's not very expensive.
No, you could be sacrificed. That's not the issue. But
For the
The
loading
issue is
factor we get,
sacrificing it, at production levels, though.
uh,
Because right now I don't have a way to smelt it down without
yeah, that's
serious
a
losses.
different question. He's talking economics, not throughput. It loads to about 10% gold. So a pound of resin that costs like $13 or $14 will hold, what is that? 1/10 of a pound is 1.2 ounces or something like, no, 3.1 ounces, 1/10, 31 is an ounce.
well,
Oh,
3.1
let's see.
would be
No,
is
there's,
it?
I think so.
Yeah, 3.1.
Yeah, 3.1 ounces times 1,800. So $15 worth of resin holds $5,500 worth of gold. Essentially, it's a non-issue. And so it's more a question of throughput, ease of use, efficiency, all these sort of things. Yeah, every dollar matters, but time is money too. Equipment is money also. So it's your capex, it's your throughput, it's your operating cost per pound, operating cost per hour. There's a lot of different
all comes
dollars.
down to operating cost per ounce.
Yeah, and so you gotta look at all of them and see how it all balances out. But the cost of the resin compared to the value of the gold it holds is inconsequential. The losses getting it out, 25% losses on the other hand, suck.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah, what would that be? $5,500
550
times
1,100 and something.
no, 1,395. So the losses would be $1,400.
1 ounce loss.
What do you care about, the 14 or the 1,400? I care about the 1,400. So we have to come up with a better system of recovering it that is both efficient and has a reasonable throughput. Doesn't have to be much. I mean, a pound a day would be plenty for what we're doing. I mean, a pound of resin per day processed would be more than we're going to be doing this year. But the other thing is, if your stripping system is relatively inefficient, you only get 80% of the gold off the resin, but you're then reactivating it, putting it back in circuit, you haven't lost the gold. You simply can't get it yet. In the long run, then you can worry about smell. If you get like 5 uses out of the resin and you've got a 20% load that you just can't strip out, you'll get it later.
Smoke it, yeah.
Yeah, when you smelt it. Okay, let's see.
All right.
What we got. Simo.
Simo's got.
Okay, Simi from Africa. Yeah. Okay, we've got what looks like some pretty microfine gold. It is gold coated with mercury, and the look after roasting. I'm guessing the two with the silver stuff. Yeah, it's very fine gold. That's the kind that cyanide can work on. And then again, we got the, let's see, is there a full screen? Yeah, cyanide should be able to work on that. Let me get back to the discussion here.
Point, though, you just take that.
Okay.
Wouldn't you?
Basically, Simo here has a situation. He's processing tailings that have been amalgamated in the past. He's showing some pans with some, amalgamated gold. And then when he roasted it and got rid of the mercury, it's microfine. I mean, it's fine, really good fine gold.
Fine dust.
Yeah. So it's the sort of thing that the cyanide should work. Chris, if you have amalgamated gold, will the cyanide work on it? Or is the mercury going to protect the gold? Or are you going to get a lot of mercury in your cyanide solution, which is then going to cause another problem?
That's a good question.
Because if you mobilize the mercury into some easily absorbable compound, life can get really unpleasant in a really big hurry. Because things like methyl mercury are extremely toxic. Well, if you gravity separate the gold first, Chris, then there's no purpose in the cyanide. You could just smelt it.
Well, that's what judging by what I was seeing, I would be more apt to agree with Chris there and go to a retort, smoke off as much mercury as you can, and then go to a kiln and pour it.
Oh yeah, but what do you do with the tailings? The tailings are running 1/10 of an ounce to the ton. Do you retort them? That's what I'm saying. You've got to gravity separate first.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to a leach pad then, like you're doing. And
Polka, there is at least one thing I'm working on a possible patent on, which I haven't even discussed on the channel yet. And I'm not even sure if Jim is aware of it. I know Lauren is.
Well, I know you had some ideas, and that's why I don't bring it up.
Yeah.
Short of I've told a few people you've been working on it, and here's what we're doing a little bit, but it's
okay. Now that's
as a small minor thing, it could work really well. It would, and a different ore would be a completely different thing than what Keith's doing. I mean, if there was a tough ore, he's got it.
Gold miner. It was when towards the very first when I was at Lauren's starting to work over there, and I said this reaction went crazy on us.
Within the last 2 months or so?
Yeah, it's about 2 months ago.
After Christmas?
Yeah, it was after Christmas, probably January or February. And I said it just went crazy. But again, the aqua regia did not strip the resin, because we then had the aqua regia analyzed at the lab. And I wasn't using aqua regia on gold, Zioxia. I was using it on resin. Now, see me? Chris is suggesting that you try collecting the gold over copper plates using charged mercury.
That would be another way of grabbing it.
And then
that might work better than the shaker table, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the amalgamation techniques, SEMO, but if it's coated with mercury, then you're not dealing with the same chemistry as you would be if it was just clean gold. And okay, Zioxio, I don't know, Chris, did you get a email from SEMO? If not, I can forward it to you. Just let me know, and if you didn't, I can send it to you. Say, since you already have amalgam, it looks like. Okay, hold on, folks, for a second. While I forward this to Chris. Forward to Chris. Georgie.
All right.
On the way, Chris.
There you go.
So, Chris seems to think they have techniques now that would be pretty efficient at recovering the amalgamated mercury. I mean, the amalgamated gold that you're dealing with, SEMO. And I'm pretty sure he has your email now, SEMO, too. So it's a possibility that you two might want to work together on that. Again, comes amalgamation. I have any experience in it. So I'm not the greatest person. Yeah, see, it's running 2/3 of an ounce to the ton. He's got 900 tons of it.
Yeah. Yeah, some value. It's definitely worth pursuing.
Definitely worth working on. Yeah. Yep. And Chris and Jim here have a lot more experience with that than I do in terms of placer gold, basically.
Wow.
I have a
Well,
device that I've got that might recover that just fine, but it's not easy to go over with. I call it a trip concentrator because I got the idea from Prospector Trip. It seems to work good down to about 500 mesh, which is
Pretty
let
fine.
me look on the chart here. Let's see. 500 mesh would be pretty close to 30 microns. Okay. So I'm recovering gold down to 30 microns with fairly good efficiency. I mean, I was getting 80% recovery out of that
Wow.
ore, you know.
But you add the flowering to it with the it's already got mercury on it, and that's another. It's you'd think it'd add weight, but not necessarily.
It would be worth a shot.
Yeah, if you can pan it, the shaker table would probably give you a good enough split to reconcentrate, get better concentrate.
Yeah, and another thing you can do is you can table it and take off the real good concentrates,
Right.
then separate out the middlings, the stuff between where there's no gold and where you got good clean gold, and then rerun those tailings over the tail. And you can run it 10 times if you wanted to, as long as it's doing good.
As long as you're catching it and rerunning it.
Yeah. The main thing
you
is
definitely want to clean it. If it does take 3 times, you want to do it 3 times.
Sure. I say there's no limit except for a practical limit. When does it stop not paying for itself?
Too much labor.
And I mean, if you can get rid of, let's just say 50% of the mass every time you run over the table, throw the clean tailings, pretty quick you've got a really good concentrate.
Yep.
That's worth it's a lot easier to play with. The more concentrated it gets, the easier it is
to get
to deal with economically. Absolutely. If you've got a shaker table you can try it on, I'd give it a shot. And yeah, you're going to want to check your tailings. Absolutely. And also some kind of detergent or something like that that'll break the surface tension.
Yep.
Because you got a real
closed loop system ideally.
Yeah. But the stuff I was seeing, that looked to me like it was coarse enough to get with a good gravity system.
Yeah, I think with a table, I think it could work pretty good. And you may have to run it 2 or 3 times, but that's a pretty efficient way of getting that separation and keep it, increasing the concentration.
Yeah,
and if you can skim some gold out on each level, where you with the sucking it up or whatever, definitely continue to make those cuts. But if it does take 3 times to rerun it,
I'm going to diagram my RP4 table here,
which is
actually I think mine is a Deister like this. They go all the way to the edge.
One of them goes down. Yeah, there's a split in there.
I think these went to the edge. But anyhow, your feed comes in here, and you have water trickling this way, and the table shaking this way. And by adjusting the angle of this table, you should be able to get a pretty good clean concentrate coming off somewhere over here.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to have tailings coming off in this area here, and if it's running reasonably well, these are going to be pretty much waste.
Yeah, pretty clean.
You can throw that away.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, say if it's running reasonably well. This stuff in here is what we would call the middlings. And you can even split it up depending on how it goes. And this, let's just assume it's working reasonably well, and this is almost pure gold. This goes straight to your final recovery. which would be retort and then smelting. This waste here, that gets thrown away because it doesn't have hardly any gold in it. The middlings get recirculated back to there. And so they'll do that again.
Yeah.
Now, you said that you were getting 19 grams here.
I think he downgraded it to 10, but okay.
Okay. 10 grams?
Yeah.
Okay. 10 grams. Okay. So these middlings might be in the 5 to 10 gram range. Okay. You've gotten rid of a lot of waste. You've taken out some gold, but you still got a lot of gold in this. So just put it right back on the table.
Well, if you've got an access to a retort, also another thing you can do, like on my RP4, it feeds from here, it goes this way, then here, and there's some deep enough troughs here in the newer RP4 that you could actually put some charged mercury in a couple of those, and you'd pick up some of that flowered mercury
And
gold right away. You just start amalgamating it out of the system, which then you could take that to a retort and smelt it and pour it right into a bar.
Yeah. Because
That's how mine is.
this is the feed. It comes
Yeah.
in here and it kind of zigzags
Yep.
back and forth.
Yep, it gets shaken back, and
that's
that's actually
mix it and blend
it's
it.
actually tipped separate of the table.
Yeah,
a
this
little
goes
bit.
down
Right.
that way and this
Right.
goes down this way.
But you could
Yeah.
use those troughs for
That's a
actually
good idea.
using charged mercury within it, and that would catch some of that almost immediately. It will take it out of circuit.
Now, how does he make charged mercury?
Chris, I'll leave that to Chris with charging mercury. You could do it with just a car battery or a battery.
Yeah, Chris kind of explained to Simo.
Chris is doing a good job already, really explaining some of it right there.
Yeah. Anyhow, let's say there's charging mercury kind of changes the, call it alloy, and it makes it much more aggressive at grabbing stuff.
To grab that other mercury out.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how it's done. Again, it's nothing I've ever done.
I've never done it. I've never had to charge it. I've always had pretty decent mercury, and I've added back zinc or whatever when I do clean it through the retort, catch my mercury again, add a little bit of zinc and that back to it, and reuse my mercury again.
Okay, what do you use for the which one's the cathode and which one's the anode? I presume the mercury is the cathode. And if so, what do you use for the anode? What he's saying, Simo, is you take and you make a little cell, and there you go, right there. He's got a link for you.
Yep, there's a link.
I'd click on that right now and then save that link.
Yep, lock that one up.
Yeah. And again, if you don't need a whole lot of voltage, a car has plenty enough voltage for that.
And you could actually do something similar even in a small controlled, enclosed sluice system too. Like a test sluice or something where you're able to run small amounts at a time and have some mercury or copper plated mercury in there.
Yeah. You use a mercury plate for your slick plate.
Yep. Yep. But you'd be able to grab a lot of that really fast.
Oh, you're welcome, Simo. That's what we like to do here.
Once you can recover it, then go into a retort and smelting it into a bar is really easy at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. But once you have a mass of amalgam,
oh yeah,
it's real easy
to deal with
pure amalgam instead of all the silica and stuff goes bye real fast.
Right.
But yeah, I like that idea. Sounds good.
It's not expensive if he's got access to some mercury.
Usually they do.
Ideally, my personal opinion is staying away from cyanide as much as possible. And not to say that it's a bad thing. That if you know what you're doing and everything, that's fine.
It just
But-
it's not as simple.
It's got plenty of complication, even as you guys have watched with Keith and his Goldex here and Eco Goldex. It becomes complicated at points.
Yeah.
And if you can keep it simple, keep it simple.
Yeah, whenever possible. So, and one of the nice things too, even though we're not going to be smelting the resin probably in the long run,
Mm-hmm.
we can now by ourselves test how well certain things work.
Right.
We had a test where we wanted to see, because I think it was last week also, there was talk about using salt pretreatment of the resin to activate, because we were having trouble with the resin that had been stored
Mhm.
over the winter.
Right.
And so we did that. We took 2 samples of resin and we treated one with salt and then rinsed it and then put them in a flow of pregnant solution and then assayed them. And the one that was treated with salt had like 2/3 of the gold that the one that wasn't treated had. So we were able to determine that that was not a good idea.
Right.
Real simple.
No.
Yeah, and that's once once you have that technique, and we've got some techniques where we suspect that our major problem in terms of the calculated loading of the resin and what we're recovering is the fact we lost it during drying. But we're getting techniques where, anytime you get better than 6.65 grams from 10 grams of stage 1 resin, you're getting a pretty good recovery here,
Okay.
So we're doing,
Yeah, if you can get a baseline to where you're getting it.
so that's the technique we would use on an unknown resin. I don't know. Thank you, Jaron. About using resin with cyanide. We used carbon where I was at, activated carbon, and we used a high temperature, short of boiling, system to recover the gold, but it had a very high pH, like it was a pH of 14 with sodium
nasty.
hydroxide
Yeah.
and 2% sodium cyanide. So, I mean, this stuff was extremely dangerous for skin contact or whatever. So that's one of the problems potentially with the cyanide system, is getting it into solution is easy, getting it out, not so much.
Right.
We found with this Eco Goldex, getting it into solution is easy. Getting it onto the resin, piece of cake.
Yep.
Effectively getting it off the resin, not so much. So, I say it becomes quite frustrating at times. And with the situation you're at, Simo, you don't have a lot of time or money to waste. You want to go fairly quickly and cheaply to a reasonable solution.
Right.
You may be able to make it better in the long run with more time and money.
Right. As you get some.
But you
gold
need
out.
something that'll work reasonably well at first. And I really like the idea of using the charged mercury amalgamation to, especially the previously amalgamated particles. They're going to tend to stick to that really easily.
Quick, it'll grab them quick.
And so if half the gold in your tailings is already amalgamated but just got free,
Floured.
boom, you're getting that real quick, and then some of the other gold too. And then you can just stockpile your tailings.
Yeah, because not all
for laser treatment some other way.
all clean gold will be attracted to mercury either. That can be an issue. That's why you'll find where you have clean gold and then you have floured mercury coated gold, because you can get differences.
And another thing too is if you're using the charged mercury to start with, your tailings should have a lot less mercury in them when you're done with it.
You'll clean it out.
You'll be cleaning up all that
recover.
mercury.
Yep, you'll be mopping it out.
And then, assuming you still got enough gold left in it to make it worthwhile, then you could probably cyanide that a lot simpler and safer. And Purolite A400, huh? I think you need to.
Yeah, that's another chance, Chris, that would work. A good jig and copper ragging.
Direct ashing. We have found with our resin here and the chemistry that we're using that we're generally going to get 20 to 25% losses during the ashing process. We have also managed to achieve up to 40% losses just during the drying process, believe it or not. So that can be very costly. I'm not saying it won't work on what you're doing because I haven't tested it and I'm not really that knowledgeable on this. But ashing tends to have some significant losses. That's kind of what we were planning to do too, was ash the resin, flux it, and go from there. In terms of AR the ash, yeah, that's got ideas. But again, I'm thinking we're losing 25% during the ashing process, and if we don't dry it properly in the first place at room temperature, and this is with the Eco Goldex, not with cyanide. Don't know with cyanide, but we found out that even at 145 degrees drying temperature, we were losing a third of the gold. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's extensive.
It was insane. If we put it in the oven at 250 degrees, we lost over half the gold. That's just crazy. I don't know where the hell it's going.
Do you think it's being locked up in the resin?
Don't think so.
Well, that's why I'm going to reread that part of the book about assaying slimes, because our gold is finer than slimes.
Yeah. Well, Zioxio, I agree. And if you got a graduate student that wants to find out why for whatever, that would be great, because that's the sort of thing we could supply him with the loaded resin and such. And then he could try and do all the lab work and find out what the heck is going on and what's the best way to get it out. And because it's, as you point out, really strange and it's a new technology, it could be something that would be of significance, which would always be great for some, if you're going to college and you're writing a thesis or a dissertation, it turns out to have a significant downstream impact. Oh, yeah. That makes you look really good.
That was my question, gold miner.
Yeah, that would be a good idea too.
I have a report.
She has a report. What?
After a second hour of drying the Cupels, they have not lost any more weight. Therefore, I assume they are dry.
Okay.
First one would work.
Yeah. It's a perfectly good question, gold miner. I do not think that is what's happening at this point. I can't prove it one way or the other. But that last batch of stuff that Eva ashed the bejesus out of, that's 800 degrees Fahrenheit for 7 hours, reduced it from 13 point some grams to about 1 gram. And then we smelted the remaining residue after nitric acid digestion,
I'm considering trying roasting it in a reducing environment to see if that makes a difference.
We could try this. Yeah, for right now, Simo, that might be the best way to go. As we find things out, we'll let everybody know. But again, we're not using cyanide either. We're using Eco Goldex. That may make a huge difference in things. It is not the same chemistry. For example, a thiosulfate gold complex will not stick to carbon worth of crap. Yeah, assuming you don't lose it in the ashing process, that should work just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, just watch for losses in the ashing.
The question is, do you need to ash it? Will the AR strip the gold off of the carbon?
It might.
And be very careful about adding acid to anything that's been in cyanide. because if there's any residual cyanide left, it will very rapidly turn into hydrogen cyanide gas, which is quite toxic. Yeah, Zioxio. I mean, there's lots of possibilities here. If you can find us a good chemistry, or a good graduate student that wants an interesting topic, yeah.
Free materials supplied, no money involved.
Yeah, just give us the gold back when you're done. Yep.
They just might if he gets to the right guy or talks to the professor or something.
Yeah, well,
because they will work with you over there.
What we were doing, gold miner, let's say she roasted these resin beads for a long time because we're out there anyhow doing other stuff, and she was running them at 800 degrees to try and 800 Fahrenheit to try and minimize any volatilization or whatever. And yeah, I know Zioxio, and that would be great with me.
Yeah, if you know one of the professors, Zioxio, or somebody who could get onto somebody that wants to take it.
Yeah, but
it would be a good project.
The extraction out of the resin part is not going to be something that I'm working on patenting. Okay. We can probably do it. Again, that's what I was saying. If I just provided you guys with the loaded resin, I don't have a big problem with that part going public too much. I could talk to my principal and make sure, but I say, since we could use the help getting it done, I don't think that would be a problem.
No.
Anyhow, to get back to what I was doing. So she was roasting this stuff and taking it out every 2 hours and looking at it under the microscope. And first
every hour.
Every hour.
Okay.
Okay. And first it started making beads that were, black to begin with. Then it turned out some of them looked really gold.
Yeah.
Others had kind of a gold matte finish to them, the yellowish. Others were, more of an iron oxide color.
Similar to what Tricky was showing
us.
Yeah.
We had gold, brass, bronze, copper, and silver.
Yeah.
Similar to Tricky's then.
And when they break up, they fracture in different patterns.
Yeah. And I say she just kept doing until it stopped breaking down, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, we were slightly less than a gram of residue. And then it's like, well, what is it? Is that iron oxide? Is it this? Well, first of all, let's just try a nitric acid digestion. That'll pretty much dissolve any metals or whatever. And so we thought, well, do that to try and get anything else out of there. Mm-hmm. That really didn't change the mass at all, did it, the little one?
No.
Yeah. Didn't change the mass to speak of.
We still have to get a gold bead.
And so then we is that the one that's sitting in the Cupel right now?
That's
okay.
The one that's in the Cupel.
That's still sitting in the Cupel for
with
final analysis.
2.363 grams of lead foil.
Yeah. But it didn't have enough parting residue to encourage us on that sort of thing. Did we take that to a silver electrum bead and then parted it, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we added some silver, Cupelled it, then parted that, and she's got the residual from that sitting on a Cupel ready to be thrown in there when we go back. So can you give me the email of the department head, Zioxio? Just email that to me, and then I can do that. Oops. Jerry Downey, department head, Gold Corp. Okay, yeah, just if you can send me his email, that would be great. If not,
go with that.
That should do it.
That'll get you there.
And but anyhow, yeah, I'd be happy to say, okay, we got. Thank you, Zioxio.
Yeah.
Because I say we got everything else is working pretty easily, but now we're getting into the trying to get it out of the resin bit, and we could really use somebody who knows what they're doing. Not initially, no, gold miner. So this was just a special test. Usually we would just flux it as is in the once we dried it flux it, and smelt it. And we found a flux formula and a heat profile. And that, gives us a pretty good result. We sent some off for fire assay, got essentially the same result. So we're pretty confident that's what's in the resin at that point. But there's some weird stuff going on. And yeah, Zeoxio, do it under a vacuum and run it through a scrubber and all kinds of stuff. Absolutely. I'd be happy to have somebody who really has the right tools and knowledge to look at this issue, because it's really beyond my capacity to analyze, understand, and correct quickly and reliably. I mean, I'll eventually figure it out.
Yeah, you'll get there, but
but it saved me a lot of
you
grief.
don't get old first, right?
Yeah. And so anyhow, that sounds like a good idea to me.
So it looks like your doctor was doing voodoo on you.
It was this woman was just spraying, liquid nitrogen on my face in places. She has some kind of voodoo thing where she looks at it and goes, "That spot looks bad."
What it looks like. It looks like she couldn't decide when to quit.
Yeah. No, she. Well, I'm from Arizona. Lived there basically all my life.
I get it.
And so, see, I got some here, and there's another one up here. And, yeah, it's kind of fun. You go to the dermatologist, and it's like, okay, you mind if I look there?
Wire we got Kanthal?
Pardon?
What was that wire we got?
Kanthal. No, just the liquid nitrogen thing, Chris.
Touching it, but
she hasn't seen anything.
Looks like she hit him with birdshot.
Well, she's just getting rid of the keratoses that she sees, figuring that if there's anything there that needs, that could go bad, get rid of it. Because my history of exposure is like, she wants to see me every 6 months. I said, we'll
negotiate that.
Medicare pay for it? Yeah. She goes, yeah, with your history. And so I said, okay, fine. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No biopsies or anything, Chris. Just a little liquid nitrogen. Be that way, Zeoxio. See if I can. But anyhow,
I had to mention it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, Zeoxio. Thank you. I'll talk to my principal tomorrow about that and everything, and send off a letter to the department head and let them know kind of what we've come up with so far, and see how it piques their curiosity. The thing that really piques my curiosity is how the heck do you lose gold out of resin at 250 degrees? It's like, what the heck?
That's what's happening, but I don't know.
Again, they've got the kind of tools they can find out.
The gold would have to be so volatile because of something else.
Well, that's why I'm going to be checking on the book again, because the book has a whole separate section for assaying slimes, and it talks about
this isn't slimes, little one.
If you're dealing with extremely fine gold, things change, and we're dealing with really, really.
We're dealing with atomic level gold, little one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even in discrete particles, probably.
Well, I'm still going to check the book.
Well, and you also have the complexes that are from the Eco Goldex. It's probably not gold attached to a binding site. It's probably like gold thiocomplex. So yeah, it's a much more complicated situation than I'm really equipped to deal with. So I'd be happy to have some help on that, especially if he can get the funding for it. But I think that, assuming his research backs up our initial indications, there's something really weird going on here. And in science, really weird means a little bit of a credit here. Yeah.
Publications.
Exactly.
Perish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
what I say.
What we would want to do is probably bring over some samples. One of loaded wet resin. Okay. One of loaded air dried resin at room temperature, one at loaded resin dried at the oven at like 350 degrees. And then we could try some that we actually tried to ash and bring a sample of each one and say, you tell me what's going on, dude.
Yeah.
Where's
the gold?
Be happy to do that. I mean, it's only 70 miles away, and we could time it so we could even see Zeoxio and say hi. Yeah, and I say there's lots of things that they've got that we don't, Yeah. It's hard to tell what they would do, Zeoxio. They're better qualified to decide what needs to be, what tests need to be run than I do. Whether it's scanning electron microscope or my thought was, an XRF. Just take a sample of the resin and put it in an XRF, benchtop, and see what happens. What the bulk density is. The scanning electron mic, work just fine. Again, I'm not qualified to make a decision. It's kind of like me trying to tell a doctor what's wrong and
stepping it up
what
to
they
that
need to
level
do.
Could be of interest, definitely.
That'd be fun. That'd be sure. It's always fun to
just to find out what's really happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, if we can get someone interested enough, that could work out real well.
Concentrated nitric acid's gotten expensive in Canada.
Really?
Yeah. Last year, 2 liters of concentrated nitric was $85. Guy's about to reorder it, and it looks like he's going to be paying almost twice that.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Oh man, I hope not, Lars. I see that guy is a rocket scientist, so he may know.
Yeah. We're not going to complicate it that much yet, Lars.
Send it to the moon.
Yeah.
Lars is a genuine rocket surgeon, which is cool.
Yeah, I say it'll be interesting to see Zeoxio.
Yeah, make for good video, the super collider. Huh?
Oh.
Great.
Wonderful. Create a black hole in your own backyard, Anyhow, so I say that was my basic idea. These are the things we've been testing, and say we still haven't. We've hit a maximum recoverable from the resin, and the fire assayer did the same thing. So it's my belief that that's basically what's in it. I don't know. I'm sure we could arrange it, Zeoxio. Belgrade?
Yeah, it's not much different going to Butte, really.
Where the hell is Belgrade, Montana? I was thinking of
Three Forks
Yugoslavia.
and go just about into Bozeman. Belgrade's right there.
Oh, okay.
Before you get about 10 miles this side of Bozeman or something.
Let's see, that would be along the Missouri River. There's fish in the Missouri River, right?
You hit all the rivers when you get right down there.
Okay, yeah, that could work.
It's not very far away.
I see some possibilities here. Okay.
Time-wise, you can get to Belgrade faster. You probably get to Butte. I don't know.
Well, it's a much flatter run.
Yeah, it's a nice run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, road trip. Again, another road trip.
Sounds like a plan. Oh. Should I tell Eva?
No. We'll be going.
Yes.
See, when I ask that, I know it. Zeoxio says there's agate and petrified wood in the Gallatin River over there by Three Forks and Bozeman.
Really?
Yeah.
So that means we're going to be going panning?
I don't know. You don't usually pan for agate and petrified wood.
Start just hunting the
You just-
Want some
shorelines.
little pieces.
Got to wait
too.
till the water goes down a little bit.
Besides,
What?
we may find gold too.
We'll see. Oh, yeah, cover me for a little bit here.
All right. I don't know what to say. Been just working on trucks and trailers and getting equipment ready and hoping to spend some time in the mountains this coming weekend and maybe into next week a little bit. It's that time of the year to start getting into the hills again. Huh. That's pretty cool, Zeoxio. Yep, it's that time, Lars. You got to get out in the field and start playing again a little bit. And try to enjoy some decent weather. I'm glad winter's finally over, but every year we seem to have snow on Memorial Day weekend for some reason, though, so it can happen. That would be cool, Zeoxio. Petrified logs filled with amethyst. That would be really pretty.
That would be gorgeous.
That would be nice to
I want a
see.
slice of one of those.
He's getting it up in the Gallatin Canyon somewhere.
Oh my God.
Well, we got to go up there.
Yeah.
So you guys can catch fish and I can get nice things.
Oh man.
I think I'd rather hunt for the specimens too. The hell with the fish. You can fish anytime.
Oh my God.
I'd go for the rock hounding myself.
Anyhow, so anything else? We got the elution. We got the furnace. I don't think we talked too much about that. I think that the video was pretty clear on everything.
Yeah.
And over at Lauren's house, once we did our resistance testing and this and that, we were with 3 people. We were easily making an element every 5 minutes.
So how many ahead are you?
Well, we made 4 total.
Okay. All right.
Because he wanted a spool of wire too.
All right.
So I ordered 2. He reimbursed me for 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we made 2 out of my spool and 2 out of his spool for him.
Okay.
And didn't take too long.
So then order another roll of wire so we have some for the future. And
Well, a single roll makes at 20 feet. I mean, we weighed 1 element stuff. It would make like 12.98 elements out of one
single roll.
out of a single roll.
Oh, so you're good for a while now.
Oh yeah.
Oh hell.
Yeah, it's 1 pound spool, and I forget what it was, but do you recall how many grams a single element was, little one?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, I come pretty closer. So we had
But you can get
454.
12 of them out of a pound. You can get 12.97 out of a pound, but that does not include staples, so we'll call it
Yeah,
12.
a little more than a slight savings, Chris.
about 35 grams per element. 454 grams per pound. So very, very efficient. That little tray in the bottom of the kiln is doing great. I'm looking. That's right. If you look carefully on that video, you can see there's some staining on it.
Yeah.
Where, when you get a little blip of slag on the edge of your crucible and then you put it in there, it runs down the side and covers everything.
Yep.
And so you do that on that foam ceramic,
Right. And you keep eating
and
it up.
eats
Right,
a hole
just-
into it.
Yeah.
But with that other stuff, that castable refractory, and it works great. The only negative to this is I don't know any place to get it cheap. I was doing a job with Lauren where he was using this, kind of rebuilding a commercial oven.
Yeah.
And so when we had leftovers at the end of a batch, we just put it in some
Flatten it out.
Plates.
Yeah.
some paper plates or foam plates. Take care,
Well, thanks
Simo.
for being here, Simo.
And you can always email us too. So there's essentially no cost, but it's a fiber reinforced ceramic.
Right.
or it's not ceramic, refractory. And
cement,
it's also got some, looks like vermiculite or something in it too.
probably perlite or something to lighten it up.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that
Lauren,
can take a lot of heat too without it hurting it.
could you give them the name and manufacturer of that stuff? I don't know if they make it in smaller packages than 50-pound sacks, but
Some of them even have, like, you can get a 2.5 gallon pail full or whatever.
yeah,
It's dry, but
there's various options, and but that stuff is holding up
good.
without the slightest signs of wear and
Well,
tear.
that's what you were looking for.
No cracking.
Some way to.
Let's say there's slag, some slag on top of it that just discolors it a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah. So it's doing a great
It
job.
become tacky to where everything you set on it sticks.
Haven't seen that.
Or welds to it.
Yeah, and the bottom of the furnace is well protected.
Good.
That hot spot on that heating element in the
Yeah.
video, that was not planned. I wasn't expecting to see that because it wasn't there the previous test the day before when I done the last repair and then checked it. That thing wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so this time I turned that on, and you'll notice where the repair was, there was no glowing there.
Right.
Because you got two wires
lower
in
resistance.
parallel,
Right.
with another wire wrapped around. So there's lower resistance in that area. There's a lot more wire for it to go through, so it never even gets hot. When I took a crimp connect, it was a high temperature crimp connect. When I crimped it, right at the end of the crimp connect,
right, you get that resistance.
It failed right there. Okay, so that's why I went with the little spiral thingy.
Robinson Walker.
Okay,
Cool.
and
So if anybody else is looking for refractory cement,
yeah, I'd say this was a castable fiber reinforced refractory, and it seems to work just great. We have how many do we have? Over a dozen plates.
Good.
That we did, because I mean,
yeah, but Lauren's got a furnace and you've got one, and
yeah,
yeah,
and so they're just kind of
you'll
stacked.
use them. Yeah,
yeah.
Eventually, you'll use them up.
Unfortunately, the ones Lauren has were when I had styrofoam plates, and so they're perfect on one side. On the other hand, the ones I have was a later batch where all I had was paper plates, and I was doing it on the grass, and so they're lumpy. So I have to grind them smooth-ish.
Grind them on.
Yeah, we already got to grind them to
Yeah,
cut
I know,
them and all
right,
this
I
other
know.
stuff. But yeah, I also took one and cut it into some pieces to make essentially a crucible lid.
Yeah,
So that Eva has some crucible lids.
good idea.
But that stuff, it's some tough stuff. It's just showing no sign. It's just shrugging off everything.
Good.
And once we get that Kanthal in there, because already the heating element that Lauren had in his, we measured it, I think it was 9.8 ohms. So we're going at 10 ohms. So already we're dropping the maximum temperature a little bit right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't caused us a problem.
You're not running your furnace wide open anyway.
Exactly. And then the Kanthal has a 400 degree higher operating temperature than the nichrome.
So that's going to last longer.
So it should
hopefully
last a lot longer. And when it gets a little thing like that, hopefully in most cases, it'll still be below the failure temperatures, so it won't degrade. If you want to, Lars, sure. I think I know where Lauren can get some more refractory if we need it. You got any leftover refractory, partial bag or anything, Lauren?
What was a 50-pound bag?
About $100, I think Lauren
That's
said.
not too bad.
Not something for a specialty thing.
I think
like
that's
that.
about what I paid for refractory cement when I built that aluminum smelting furnace.
Have you seen that refractory caulk?
Yeah. Oh, they got some neat shit
It's
out
like
there. If
$30
you go
a
hunting.
tube for
Yeah,
that stuff.
Yeah, if you go hunting, there's some really neat.
Yeah. I mean, they make a refractory caulk, folks, believe it or not. You know? And it's like, I say $35 a tube, I think it was.
Hmm.
But it's really easy, like for the bottom of that oven, you get a little divot. Ah, excellent, Lauren. Well, Lars has a mold he made for the bottom of his kiln, so we might be able to make some even fancier things. So cool. And I don't think that kiln was designed to deal with the conditions that we subject it to. But by doing a few upgrades, I think we can make it
You'll
pretty
get there.
darn reliable.
You'll see how this works with the new wire. I think that's going to answer a lot of the issues you already had.
How do you know when all the lead is oxidized away? I presume this is where you're cupelling, Andy. If you can verify what we're doing right now, we're trying to do more production than assaying. So at the we're trying to in-quart roughly 3 times the amount of silver as there is gold in the sample that we expect, so that we can then part the bead later. And at 1750 degrees, once the lead is out of the bead, it'll freeze. And that, when Chris saying watch for the blick, especially in assaying, but that's where you've got a way you can watch things. And the furnace we're using has an opaque door that we close, so we can't. But by running it at 1750 degrees, once the lead is out of the bead, that silver is now well below its temperature of solidification.
Yeah. Right.
And it just freezes up. So you just keep looking in there, and when the bead is solid, it's like, okay, lead's gone. And that's how we're doing it. It's not the best way to assay because some of your silver is going to get oxidized and wind up in the cupel. You might lose a few percent. The book says like up to 4% of your silver.
Yeah.
Of course, if our silver is only 3 times the amount of gold, 4% of it ain't much value compared to the gold we're getting.
Right.
And
I'm keeping my cupels.
Yeah. So we can see if we're losing stuff into the cupels later and things like that. By the way, some guy wrote me, said he's been studying this stuff for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's never seen anyone else who has videotaped the blick. Okay.
Well, you did a couple times actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so let's say the blick is what you see. It emits light as it is cooling, because in order to solidify, it has to release energy, and it's already glowing.
You got a good video on that if you go back to that video.
What the heck is a blick?
Yep.
Yeah. But if you've got a situation where you can observe your furnace, if it has a viewport or something like that, then by having the temperature below the melting point of silver and gold, which isn't too hard to do, say 1750 seems to work right. When it gets rid of the lead, it will solidify and it will blick. Okay. So, by the way, those big beads we're doing, they take a while to blick.
I bet.
I
can
mean,
sit and watch them
15, 20 seconds. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. But that's what we've done in our particular situation. It is not ideal for precision assaying. We're running the kiln hotter than that. Ideally, if you're doing an assay to minimize your oxidation losses, you'd be running it just hot enough
to make it happen.
to oxidize the lead and keep the litharge liquid. And you're actually going to have litharge crystals on the cupel because it's that cool. It's just vaporizing right at the bead and then
swimming off,
and cooling.
Loading.
The vapor is cooling off later. But yeah. Well, I suppose you have good eyes, Chris. There's something called the play of colors. Well, you see like bands of light and color, of light and dark going over the bead as the lead layer is very, very thin, and you start getting some interference going on.
Which looks different from driving.
Do both, Lars? Interestingly enough, when I leave the door slightly ajar for airflow to get oxygen, because the cupelling process, you're oxidizing the lead, and then the lead oxide liquid gets sucked into the cupel. So you need oxygen. And so by leaving the door open a little bit, you get a lot better airflow. But for whatever reason, the cupel in the back always finishes first.
More
better heat. It's hotter. It may be getting essentially the same airflow, but it's a higher temperature. But it always finishes first.
Huh.
Yeah. Is that what the yellow ring is on the cupel? The different colors mean different things. Little one, you've been reading the book.
The red ring is the litharge.
The red ring is the litharge.
And in assaying, what you want to see is the red ring. And you want to see red feathers that look like feathers all the way down to where the bead is. You want a full ring of feathers. The yellow, I have not figured out yet. The book did not mention the yellow, but I believe it is indeed a byproduct of the lead because I've noticed that it is more intense when I'm dealing with a lead button than it is when I'm dealing with this nice lead foil we're using to get our final bead with parting debris.
The lead button, I mean, is got other stuff in it from the mining and such. So it may have any kind of others.
Zinc or sulfur.
Zinc or something like that
in it.
We get green rings and we get yellow rings.
See what she says.
Oh, there's the Axio said lead makes yellow salts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really don't know.
That might be the answer.
Yeah, and it might be because we're running at a higher temperature. We're getting a different thing. We might be getting a higher temperature lead oxide. We might be getting lead dioxide from what we're doing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, basically, we should be getting less yellow and more feathers, but we're running at a higher temperature.
Yeah, we're running a high. It makes it very simple. You just look in occasionally and you look at it and go, yeah, it's not shiny like it was. Yeah, that's because it's got a matte surface now because it's solid. Yeah. And they also tend to sprout sometimes. Sitting there looking, also goes, plink, and these cauliflower-like things suddenly appear as the outside of the bead has cooled. The inside of the bead is still
liquid,
molten, and then it compresses it, and then when it ruptures, it just plink. They look white, but when you look under magnification, you can see it's a bunch of multifaceted silver-colored stuff as opposed to actually white. The white looks.
They're shaped like cauliflower.
It's kind of an optical delusion. Yeah.
Well, they're shaped like cauliflower
powder. Yeah, that's true. Didn't think about that, Ziaxio, but you are correct.
What is he saying?
I'd say litharge is more of an orange color.
Oh.
At least the stuff we're using, as opposed to a real yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an orange. It's actually rust colored. It's a burnt sienna orange.
What she says.
Okay. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's a light burnt sienna.
It's pretty fun when we get everybody involved in what's going on here. That makes this fun, guys.
It is kind of fun when you're doing furnacing because it's dramatic, it's exciting, it's glowing hot, things like that. Also, that sample where we ashed it for a long time.
Yeah.
We flux that down with half the flux we would normally use because there's hardly anything there now.
Oh, I gotta tell that story. Anyway, so we had this ash, which came out to 9/10 of a gram. Literally, it was 0.90. So we made up half the charge we usually do. And for once, I got a perfectly sized lead button. Exactly the right amount of reduction. And get this, the slag was the perfect shade of light olive green. And when it started to cool, when Bear flipped it out into the little container we flip him into, the bead, the silver bead, ejected off the top. Just poof, totally clean. Beautiful. I wish we'd gotten that on film.
Anyhow, yeah, it was a very clean. It looked very glassy.
Oh.
I mean, in terms of transparent.
Huh.
Yeah. But
And the fractures were very, very nice.
oh, and Andy, always when you're bringing out cupels and crucibles and stuff like that, always do it over like a metal cake pan or something, so that when you drop something, you've got some kind of containment. Especially useful when it's a crucible of hot liquid. But even then, like when you're doing a, you pop something out of the cone mold,
Yeah. You don't want
that
to be
that
chasing
slag
it
can just
across
go
the-
pow on you and stuff. And if you're trying to pound a bead flat for parting, have your piece of steel inside the cake pan.
Yeah.
So
And
if it,
wear safety glasses.
oh yeah, definitely
Oh,
wear
yeah.
safety glasses. Yeah. And
just containment makes a big difference.
yep. So always make sure you got some kind of containment set up there, because things drop, they go weird ways and such. One thing that was surprising me is how fast the lead button cools in the cone mold to where you can touch it.
Oh, you got a lot of surface area there.
Yeah, a lot of
You know,
mass,
Right.
and it sucks it up.
Yeah, the mass as well. Yeah, your cone mold's heavy.
Yeah, that'll work fine, Andy. But yeah, that's one of those things that you learn. And another thing I do, like when I'm getting small beads off of the cupel, I put them over. I've got a cast iron mortar and pestle. I pop it in there, and then I take the pestle and just twink. So I flatten it.
while it's warm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that way it can't roll.
Right. Well, yeah,
So
definitely.
if you
yeah.
drop it, it goes clunk, and it
BBs
sits there.
Yeah, BBs are kind of a pain. They
Yeah.
can get away from you and under the cabinet or the counter.
Yeah. I've got a little knife. Okay. You to get them off the cupel, sometimes they get sticky.
Yeah.
So you want a small, sharp-pointed, rigid blade knife, so it doesn't have a lot of spring to it. And then you can hold the cupel over that mortar and just pop it in there and set the cupel down. Then you just take that thing, and go bing.
Yeah.
Quite a few times it'll stick on the pestle.
Yeah.
Okay. But that way you can either pick it off the pestle or just pour it into the catch pan.
Flatten them so they can't roll away or go shooting across
Yeah,
the room.
because I mean, you get a little teeny bead, a fraction of a millimeter across.
Yep.
And it's round, and you lose it, it's gonna go somewhere. Hell, the other day I lost a damn hard drive. It took me a half an hour to find it. It was on the floor over there next to where it should have been, but it wasn't where it should have been.
Right where you look 3 or 4 times.
No, actually, I was picking stuff up.
That's usually
there it is.
That's usually my problem. I'll move it while I'm looking for it. Where the hell is
Where
that
is my
thing?
freaking
Yeah.
smartphone? Damn it. I know I had it around here. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. How much precious metals can saturate into lead? Not much, but some can. Again, Eva's literally been reading the book the last couple of weeks. With me, it's been a couple months ago. Little one? How much of the precious metals can get sucked into the lead as metal?
Well, I do know that you're far more likely to have a problem with silver getting sucked into the lead, and it can be several percent. The gold is about 1/4 of the silver on that.
Well,
But that's one of the reasons that you need to do an assay on all your lead unless you buy certified lead.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times lead will already have
Yeah,
trace
silver
gold
in
and
it.
silver
Yeah,
in it,
yeah.
but more silver than gold.
Well, the other thing is the silver is more reactive, and as my recollection of the book was that if you're doing your cupelling at a little higher temperatures than you should, then the silver itself can be oxidizing, and the oxidized silver, it can suck into the cupel.
Absolutely. That's why you always keep your cupels and you weigh them before and after.
She weighs everything.
Mass balance is a thing, people.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of mass and I got terrible balance.
Well, that's not my fault. It's because you got a testicle removed.
Oh, shit. She could have just shot you there.
Could you just pull that out of the back for a minute there?
What happened?
Ouch.
You?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not my fault that one of you're now out of balance.
Out of balance.
I mean, let's face it. You weren't entirely symmetrical to begin with. But now things are really bad.
Oh, there was a horrible medical problem a couple months ago, so they're never going to let me live it down.
Of course not. You lost half the will to live.
No, tire weights aren't ideal. Now,
Oh, heck no, tire weights are terrible.
and so you're gonna have other stuff in them for hardening, like tin or something like that too. So they say it's not ideal. It's better than nothing. If you're assaying, it's a really bad idea. In my case, I'm just trying to extract, and so precision is not really critical. But if you're assaying, no. Now, Legend Supply, I think, what is that? Sparks, I think, Reno Sparks.
Yes.
They have a 5-pound roll of silver-free lead foil for $45. Shipping sucks, though.
And just so you know, when it comes to that lead-free foil that they sell, if you cut it in 1.5-inch squares, they weigh on average 2.4 to 2.6 grams a piece. Yes, I weigh everything.
She's OCD about that.
The book said you need to weigh everything.
Well, okay.
Excuse me. He gives me a book written by an expert. And yes, the goddess does listen to experts. Okay? He gives me a book written by an expert, the founder in the field practically. And he thinks I'm not going to follow the book? Hello? Do I look blonde to you? Please say no. Hi, everybody. I have not weighed the book yet, Deoxio. I am intending to. As a matter of fact, I am so annoyed with myself because here I went through the trouble to roast the beads in the scorification dishes covered, and I forgot to weigh the scorification dish before and after, but I did choose fully glazed ones, so hopefully. Hi, Lars. Chris, as far as I'm concerned, the book is definitely worth its weight in gold. There are some parts that the goddess does not understand yet. I only have to read them another 20 or 30 times to figure it out. But it is a freaking awesome book. And I'm also going to be reading the Total and Complete book on gold refining, which is about yay thick, even in a PDF form. So that'll be really cool. But Professor Hardrock put me in charge of the laboratory because, first of all, the goddess does not do heavy things. Second of all, while the goddess does know how to do mechanical things, no thank you. I'm pulling my gender card. Men do dirty, nasty mechanical things, okay? I am in the lab. What is the name of our book, Bear? Isn't it a textbook
of fire assaying?
It's a textbook of fire assaying, and I do not remember the gentleman's name.
Bugbee. Bugbee.
Bugbee. Bugbee is the guy's name. Deoxio, my lab may be ghetto fabulous, but it is not messy. I can tell you that. I know where everything is, okay? And yeah, so Professor Hard Rock does all those dirty, messy, nasty mail things. I do the lab stuff, and I am having fun. I have real thermometers, I have lab stuff, and I have dangerous chemicals. This is wonderful. Speaking of dangerous chemicals, undangerous chemicals, you'll notice my right hand is dirty today, and so is his. We went to visit the lab dude so that I could thank him for my beautiful and probably illegal thermometers. And when we
You
shook
don't
hands,
say that on the internet.
we got some silver nitrate. Ooh, potassium permanganate. That sounds fun. Anyway, it has been a fascinating week in the world of non-news, as we all know. You may have noticed that something's going on, some sort of Davos thing is going on. And apparently Jack Posobiec was an actual certified type official reporter type person there, and he got detained for something. The video is all over the internet. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, unfortunately. But in other news, Peru's president replaces mining minister as crisis escalates. This could get interesting. There are all kinds of mining crises going on in Peru right now. The last several weeks, 4 or 5 different NGOs now have put out heart-tugging articles of various types on how the artisanal miners down in Peru are destroying the environment and destroying the animals, destroying the rainforest, and incidentally, they're hurting their own health, but that apparently is not important. In the middle of all this, the Peruvian government's got problems as well. Peru President Pedro Castillo replaced 4 ministers amid a mining and fertilizer crisis after lawmakers presented motions to censure some members of the cabinet. Alessandra Herrera was appointed mining minister after the government failed this week to reach a deal between MMG's Las Bambas copper mine and indigenous communities. Congress was seeking to censure the previous minister, Carlos Palacios. Javier Arce was named agriculture minister. He will be tasked with solving a fertilizer shortage that threatens to plunge the country into a hunger crisis. Dimitri Senmache becomes a new interior minister, and Juan Baranzuela will serve as transport minister. The appointments were the latest attempt by Castillo to reshuffle his government. The former rural school teacher who emerged from obscurity last year to unexpectedly win the presidency. Oh, that's interesting. Unexpected presidents.
Is there a Soros involved?
That was kind of my first question there, Professor Hardrock. We seem to be having a plague of unexpected presidents the last few years.
A pandemic.
Very odd. That would be plandemic.
Sorry.
He lacks experience in public office or a majority in Congress, and his administration has reeled from one crisis to the next. He's had 4 prime ministers since taking office in late July and replaced numerous top officials. The president himself survived a second impeachment attempt in Congress in March. Wow, really? After swearing-in ceremony, the ruling Peru Libre party criticized the president for making changes without consulting them. President, it's a serious mistake to leave aside the people who elected you, Peru Libre lawmaker and former Prime Minister Guido Bellido said on his Twitter account. The population will take it into account and keep it in mind. Really? Does their population pay more attention than ours does? Just wondering. Castillo's government is facing further turmoil as inflation reached 8% last month, the highest level since the late 1990s. The central bank has responded by increasing interest rates after the surge in prices triggered mass disorder. Disorder seems to be going on in a lot of places right now. Chinese and Australian investors battle for the largest lithium deposit. This is interesting. Australia's AZV Minerals Limited is battling to retain control for what is potentially the world's largest untapped lithium deposit amid ownership claims from Chinese investors. Really now? According to Boatman Capital, AZV's interest in the Monono lithium project in the Democratic Republic of Congo could fall from 36 to 36% from 75%, London-based short seller Boatman said in a research report on Friday. That may follow its planned sale of a 24% stake this month and a flurry of lawsuits from companies, including Zijin Mining Group Company, claiming ownership, documents published by Boatman show. At best, ABZ faces months or years of legal fights to block a claim by a Zijin subsidiary, Boatman said. At worst, ABZ will lose control of Monono. ABZ said Friday it extended the voluntary suspension of the trading of its stock on the ASX until June 1st, having halted selling and buying of its shares May 9th as it waits for the Congolese government to complete its permit approvals for Monono. ABZ, with a market capitalization of about $2.5 billion Australian, has soared more than 400% over 12 months. Congo is an important source of materials needed in the transition to clean energy. It's the world's largest producer of cobalt and holds vast deposits of lithium, both key ingredients in electric vehicle batteries. Chinese companies have moved aggressively to secure supplies from the Central African country and now control about half of Congo's cobalt output and approximately 70% of its copper production. Say what you want about Panda Land, those people are smart. In China, the world's biggest EV market, lithium prices have climbed more than 400% in the past year, stabilizing in recent months as stringent COVID restrictions weighed on manufacturing. The Perth-based company said earlier this month it was a matter of days from securing its mining permit. A week later, it announced Zijin's Xinshen Mining Company Limited had requested arbitration at the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris to claim a 15% share of the mining project it says it acquired from state-owned miner Cominiere last year. Boatman published a contract that showed Jincheng agreed to pay $33.4 million to Cominiere for the stake. Zijin said in May 9th statement it had followed the law and complied with joint ventures agreements for the Monono project. Zijin Mining will actively protect its legitimate rights and interests and continue to address further issues through litigation and arbitration. ABZ and Zijin did not immediately respond to separate requests for comments on Friday. Ooh, everybody's being quiet. ABZ said the agreement is meritless because it has the right to preempt any share sale by Cominiere, which currently holds 25% of the project. The company says it is in advanced discussions with the government to acquire the 15% itself. Congo's mines minister, Antoinette Nsamba Kalambai, and Cominiere's managing director, Athanase Mambwa-Misao, didn't immediately respond to separate messages requesting comment Friday. Ooh, more people being quiet. ABZ is already set to sell a 24% stake in the project to Chinese battery maker Zhou Cath Energy Technologies at the end of this month for a $240 million investment. That's about 5 times the per value share in the Cominiere Jincheng agreement. The dispute with Zijin isn't ABZ's only shareholder battle over the ownership of the deposits. Last year, the company said it paid Dothamir Mining Resources, SARL, $20 million for a 15% stake in the project, bringing its total shareholding to 75%. Now the company, owned by longtime Chinese investor in Congo, Kong Mahuai, has sued in Congo to annul the deal. ABZ's subsidiary is appealing. Kong did not immediately respond to an email requesting comment on Friday. Really? The project is planned to develop the first lithium mine in Congo. Kong's company, Société de Gestion Routière du Congo, is managing the rehabilitation of a 290-mile-long export route from Monono at a cost of around $285 million, according to ABZ. Methinks investing in the Congo is probably not the greatest idea. It seems like there may be a few underhanded things going on there. However, I do see the point because lithium is a very, very big thing. And apparently, by the way, the Salton Sea is absolutely full of lithium. Something tells me that the People's Republic of California will not allow anyone to actually put it to use. But yes, apparently the Salton Sea is full of lithium. Other than that,
Right from the runoff from the New River, Mexico.
there has been quite a lot of upheaval in the Peruvian mining community. On the macro level, the indigenous people are openly protesting and completely shutting down production at a number of world-class mines, which is going to drop the copper output by about 20% over the next several years. And now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, this crazy non-governmental organization blitz concerning the environmental disasters. And I will be blunt about that. They are disasters that are being perpetrated by the artisanal community, are drawing a lot of unwelcome attention as well to Peruvian gold and silver. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops, bearing in mind that a couple of other South American countries are looking at nationalizing their mining industries, and Mexico has already nationalized some mining industries in some states. The cartels, of course, are controlling the vast amount of Mexican silver now out of the largest producers down there, so the government will probably leave them alone. But with the severe rises in energy costs, the severe change in regulatory environments that's happening in the developed world that is directly leading to the exploitation of resources in the third world, and the continued lockdowns, which may be getting worse, the mining industry is facing some extraordinarily challenging times. In the middle of this, one would think that silver and gold and other very useful things would be going up. In any sane, non-manipulated system, they would be. However, that is not happening at the moment. In other non-news in that department, LME, of course, has pulled out of selling gold and silver entirely, but they are still very strongly manipulating the market in nickel and several other commodities that they manage. And COMEX, of all people, actually posted that they had less than 80 million ounces of silver registered, meaning available to be sold today, which is quite odd. Normally what happens, and this is not even a delivery month, okay? During a delivery month, it's not unusual to see the number go down to about 80 million, and then all of a sudden at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's a magic influx of silver that appears out of nowhere and is listed as registered and available to be sold at the same time that a whole bunch of shorts magically go poof, and somehow the numbers just never quite add up. It's kind of like November 2020 in that regard. I mean, just saying, it's those 4 o'clock in the morning shenanigans. But it is quite interesting that they've actually allowed it to show as being below 80 million ounces and registered. One never knows what's going on with the COMEX people. In the meantime, since gold and silver are on sale at the moment, it is a very, very good idea to go buy some. I will say, as much as I love local coin shops, you may be able to find better premiums online at the moment. Please stick to registered dealers and stick to dealers that actually kind of disguise their packages, because the number of claims going up of people having their packages stolen by porch pirates, and in a couple of cases by United States Postal Service workers or UPS workers or FedEx workers, is getting rather interesting and may become alarming in time. Now, how the United States conquered inflation following the Civil War. This is kind of an interesting article here. According to the most recent polling data, the American public's approval of Congress stands at a dismal 21%. 21%? That's a very, very disturbing number of people who actually have faith in Congress at all. I don't know. I don't like that number. But at this point, Congress should be in single digits, okay? Almost 4 times as many people disapprove of the job it's doing. Well, I would hope so. That's par for the course in recent decades. It's the major reason the Washington sausage grinder earns so little praise. To be fair, though, let's review an occasion when lawmakers got something right. I'm prompted to share this story now because its lessons are especially relevant concerning today's concerns about rising price inflation. The year was 1875. The Civil War produced a disastrous hyperinflation in the Confederacy and considerable currency depreciation of paper greenbacks in the North as well. A decade after Appomattox, Congress still had not made good on its promise to make its paper money redeemable in gold. Gee, I wonder why. But in January 1875, alarmed by the rise of pro-inflation agitators, the greenbackers, later to become silverites, Congress passed the Specie Payment Resumption Act, which President Ulysses S. Grant later signed into law. Politicians often break their promises. Really now, I'm shocked. And this was yet another opportunity to do so. Congress could have declared, we don't have the gold necessary to honor our pledge, so we'll pay gold for greenbacks at 50 cents on the dollar. But lawmakers chose to be honest for once and to meet their obligations fully. The act provided all paper greenbacks would be redeemable on demand at par, 100% of the earlier promise, beginning January 1st, 1879. When Rutherford B. Hayes succeeded Grant as president in March 1877, he knew his administration had less than 2 years to prepare the Treasury and the nation's banks for redemption. He and his Treasury officials believed the best way to avoid a run on banks in January 1879 was to shore up the country's gold reserves. They did so largely by selling bonds to Europeans in exchange for gold. Redemption Day came, and amid rumors, people would flood the banks with their paper greenbacks and demand the promised gold. You would think so. But just the opposite happened. Hardly anybody showed up at bank teller windows asking for the yellow metal. Why? Because the Treasury had accumulated more than enough gold to take care of convertibility, and the public knew it. The lesson? People have good reason to believe their paper money is as good as gold. And when they believe that, they prefer the convenience of paper. Former United States Circuit Judge Randall Rader writes the year 1879 brought the resumption of redeemable currency. The consumer price index stabilized at 28 in that year. For more than 3 decades thereafter, World War I interrupted price tranquility. The index never rose above 29 or dipped below 25. The index remained at 27 for a decade. Never did it rise or fall more than a single point in a year. The gold standard worked throughout that entire period to keep prices remarkably stable. Americans today are once again the victims of price inflation brought on by runaway government spending and printing of unbacked paper money. Does the Specie Repayment Resumption Act of 1875 offer a model that could solve the problem? Well, yes and no. Certainly, tying the dollar to a precious metal would exert a discipline desperately needed in monetary policy. Putting the Federal Reserve out of business would be a meaningful and positive reform as well. We should hope. Since its inception in 1913, it's given us one Great Depression, a bunch of recessions, and a currency worth 1/20th of its 1913 value. The Fed is an inflation factory, stumbling and fumbling from one self-inflicted crisis after another. Gold convertibility, as the 1875 Act provided, would signify a restoration of integrity and monetary sanity we haven't seen in 100 years. But 2 big fat elephants ensure that an 1875-like reform would immediately collapse unless they are summarily escorted out of the room. One is dishonest politicians. Are there any other kind? Washington is overrun with them. People who are interested first and foremost in short-term power and re-election and least in the long-term economic health of the country. Many are, pardon my bluntness, economic morons, oblivious to the red ink even as they drown in it. The other element, the presence of which is a confirmation and consequence of the first, is a massive annual budget deficit. For half a century, from 1865 to World War I, the federal government ran an almost unbroken string of budget surpluses. For those who don't know, the word surplus means you've got extra. Okay? Our government apparently is unaware that this word exists anymore. Today, it produces trillion-dollar deficits without batting an eye, and the president demands trillions more in spending and debt. If he announced today the dollar would henceforth be backed by gold, the world would laugh, and you and I would rush to the banks with our paper before the gold ran out. In other words, monetary discipline goes in hand with fiscal discipline. A return to sound money is impossible without a simultaneous return to sound budget management. In the face of a monstrous budget deficit and even more frightening $30 trillion in national debt, Congress just voted to ship $40 billion to Ukraine without cutting so much as a penny from anything else. We have neither a Congress nor a president, and perhaps no public consensus either, that would permit anything remotely resembling the 1875 SPCA Payment Resumption Act. And until we do, the dollar is destined for further depreciation. Just as elections have consequences, so do destructive monetary and fiscal policies. This is absolutely true. And if you want to hear a whole lot more about that, you want to go to fee.org, because they're people that follow this, along with Mises.org. They're people who believe in sound money because sound money has sound rules. You may notice there's a lot of things in life where the rules have gone out the window of late. At the same time that our dear federal government decided that they were going to send $40 billion to Ukraine, they celebrated an airlift of infant formula, Operation Fly formula, into the United States from Germany and elsewhere in Europe. We're apparently also going to be buying formula from Mexico. Now, something like 80,000 pounds came in first, and this is one thing I actually agree with. The first stuff they bought in was very scarce, critical specialty formulas for children who critically need them. That formula went directly to hospitals, doctors, and pharmacies to get to children who critically need it. And that makes perfect sense. What does not make perfect sense is why we ended up in this mess in the first place. Because some months back, 4 infants unfortunately died of some sort of a salmonella outbreak that was erroneously traced to Abbott Labs, the largest formula manufacturer in the United States, as a matter of fact. Now, in a sane government system, when the government moved in and discovered in a matter of a couple of weeks that those deaths had no relationship to this plant, and this plant was clean, infection-free, and complying with all regulations, you would have thought that they would say, okay, fine. We checked off all the boxes. You had nothing to do with this outbreak. Get your people moving and get open again as rapidly as possible. That did not happen. Months down the road, we now have 48% of stores in the United States either having no formula or having limits that people can't buy because there isn't enough. And the federal government, in their infinite wisdom, announced here recently that they were working on a pathway to reopening, that they would let Abbott start producing critical formulas immediately. But everything else, there has to be a pathway to reopening. This is after they have known for multiple months that there was no reason to stay closed. One has to wonder what is going on in our democracy and in the bureaucrats that are in charge of things at the moment. And we also have monkeypox showing up now. People have been publishing very scary pictures of very scary lesions, and apparently a lot of these outbreaks, in Europe anyway, are tied to raves and pride, a gigantic pride festival in the Canary Islands, which is kind of odd. And it's also kind of odd that there was a vaccine made for this a couple of years ago. which is fine. And it's a real vaccine. It's the old-fashioned attenuated vaccine kind of things. And apparently, Bill Gates put out some sort of a tabletop game that the tinfoil hat crowd is very upset about, because the premise of said game was that there would be a worldwide monkeypox outbreak in May of 2022, like this month. Of course, we all know that that's just absolutely a ridiculous tinfoil hat theory. But yeah, the CDC in their infinite wisdom is now also saying that we are not done with COVID yet, and everybody should be wearing masks inside again. It should be noted that Lord Malarkey behaved himself very well the other day. He exited Air Force One wearing his mask with absolutely zero people around him, came down the stairs, took off the mask, and then proceeded to start shaking people's hands, which is just about par for the course when it comes to Lord Malarkey. He currently apparently is wandering around somewhere in Asia, South Korea or someplace like that. I'm sure he will return sooner or later and go back to wandering around the albino McMansion looking lost. He's very good at looking lost. I will say that. I mean, that's just the way he is.
Not looking.
Well,
Sometimes
I'm not.
Appearances aren't deceiving.
The goddess is being diplomatic here. One must be diplomatic about the current occupant of the albino McMansion. I mean, one must be semi-polite when it comes to referring to the albino McMansion and
On
those
YouTube.
who are in it. Yes, exactly. But all manipulations and weird stuff aside, people are still saying that gold and silver are going to be getting some rational price discovery this year. Mad Vlad the Invader is part of that, because if all of you have missed the news, and you probably have if you've been paying attention to the so-called media, the other day the ruble hit an all-time high of 68 against the dollar. And there are strange rumors to the
58
effect.
today.
Yeah. There are strange rumors to the effect that Mad Vlad the Invader and his financial cronies there in Russia are deliberately suppressing the Russian economy such that the ruble does not get even higher against the dollar for some reason. Now, it wouldn't surprise me, but I do find it a very interesting data point. I find it an even more interesting data point that other countries outside of the BRICS group are looking to circumvent using US dollars. All kinds of odd things are happening financially. And in the middle of this, Jim Cramer, the man who is best known for saying exactly the opposite of what the market is going to be actually doing, by the way, said that the Dow is the strongest it's ever been. I'm sure we all agree, since this is the first day it hasn't fallen in about a week and a half, as far as I know. He also said that we all need to buy Wells Fargo, because this year Wells Fargo stock is going to be explosive. Bear in mind, this is the gentleman who 3 days before Lehman Brothers completely disappeared off the face of the earth and almost brought down the whole U.S. economy with it, was saying that anybody who sold Lehman and wasn't buying and holding it for life was a damn fool. So, in answer to Mr. Cramer's absolutely 100% failure track record, a lot of people are now following the inverse Cramer index. Whatever the man says, you do exactly the opposite. So if you happen to own Wells Fargo, since it is explosive, you might consider selling it. Then again, I would have been out of the stock market a long time ago, because as we all know, it has no connection to reality, along with most of the other shit that's going on these days. So we still have an ongoing fertilizer shortage. It is reaching critical levels in Peru and several other nations. Some Middle Eastern countries are looking at following Iran or Iraq or both, because one of them decided that they needed a social credit score and digital IDs to help quell their food crises. People in Britain are now to the point where some of them are following intermittent fasting and alternate day fasting so that they can feed their children. And yes, the Texas grain crop is looking really bad this year. A lot of the Midwest is looking really bad this year. Europe is still in an extended heat wave that is wrecking their wheat production this year. India, of course, banned exports of wheat because they're in the middle of an extensive heat wave that is killing their crops this year. And when it comes to infant formula, Abbott has said even if they open tomorrow, it will take as much as 8 weeks to ramp up to full production again, which is the reason why they never should have been closed for the last several months. Okay? I mean, let's face it, that was just ridiculous. We are having significant difficulties financially. Part of that is also going to be our housing market. There are already sharp drop-offs in sales of houses in communities that are normally considered bellwethers for a housing crash. There's been a rise in some places on tax lien sales and repossessions by banks because people got priced out of their homes. So yeah, we are still in the middle of an economic collapse. That being the case, if you have mining claims, make sure your paperwork is proper, make sure your claim stakes are there and your maintenance is done. Because amongst the other things the government is going to decide to shut down, seize, or take back are things like mining claims. So you really need to be on top of your paperwork this year like no other year. You also want to be on top of keeping your money out of a falling financial system. If you can get it out and put it anywhere. Even putting it under a mattress is going to be better than leaving it where somebody else can take it, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Which is why with gold and silver on sale, I suggest you go buy some. Bye.
And well, I suppose you could give a recap, because I see Tricky joined us and a few other guys jumped in here.
Okay.
Blind dude.
Yeah, you got to give a recap to everybody there.
Kind of bring them up to speed at where you were at this week, I guess. Recap.
Okay.
There, recap.
So anyhow, recap from my standpoint is the silver chloride precipitation method works great for generating silver chloride. Silver chloride has substantial losses during the smelting process and didn't seem to recover the gold as well from resin. We were hoping that the additional chlorine would be a better oxidizing agent, etc. But for all I know, it's combining with the gold and making the gold go up the stack. Whatever. Didn't seem to be a successful experiment. So on to plan B. We tried using sodium chloride, potassium chloride brine to extract the iron from the resin before smelting to see if that would improve things. It did not, because it also removed 10 to 20% of the gold from the resin. That's not enough to be a good stripping solution, but it's good enough to screw things up. We are going to see if we can't come up with a method whereby using the right pH, the right chemistry, electrolytic cells, things like that, we can effectively strip the gold off of the resin and electroplate it and go from there. Hey, blind dude.
Hey, blind dude.
And we haven't even got started on that because parts are still coming in for that. I have Yeah, I know, Lars. I've been doing that. Eva gets mad when I do that, though. I didn't weigh it first.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, no measurement.
Expanding the size of the tailings pad so that we can put more ore on it without having to offload it first, so that we're kind of getting ready for this summer season. We'd like to do like 50 tons this year. And looks like the agitation's doing fine at 1,000 pounds of ore in the tank. Pretty soon we'll try ramping that up to 2,000 pounds. But before we can do that, we're going to A, need more ore, and B, a jaw crusher that works. So the new engine for the RC46 is on the way. And once I get the mill lined out properly, depending upon whether the engine is here and the RC46 is running, we will either start crushing some of the ore that we got last year we have the larger rocks have been segregated out, and we've now kind of hand sorted them into rock type. So the idea is to crush those up by rock type and then assay that to see if there's a particular rock type that is, looks like ore that isn't, or doesn't look like ore that is, or whatever. And so we're going to see if we can increase the precision with which we can hand sort the ore, and at least in the early part of the season, increase gold production by reducing the amount of rock we need to process to get it. With just Eva and I working 6 days a week, we should be able to mine and process about 2 tons of ore per week if we use 2 trucks and 2 trailers when we go out to the mine. We do have 2 trailers available, and we can probably, the boss can probably scrounge up another pickup truck. I don't think that'll be a problem. So then we could go out there and basically spend, 2.5 days, something like that, and mine a couple tons of rock, put it in buckets, put it on trailers, and get it ready to haul back. And then run 2 1-ton batches through the mill, and take Monday off to do our, laundry and things like that, and then head back out on Tuesday. That would be a very demanding schedule for an extended period of time. But once we get rolling a bit, we might, get a helper to, like run the mill while we're mining ore or something. We'll see. As we engage in the various activities, we will determine what needs to be done, what's the best way to do them, what the proper procedures are, how many people, how fast it goes, and then kind of adjust from there.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
And
scale into it.
Exactly. So it looks like we're just a little bit behind our optimal schedule for right now, but pretty close to it. Not looking too bad. And other things, I had put up the video on how to maintain that furnace. What we're doing with it, I think, is more severe service than it was designed for. So, having the extra plate coating the bottom there, being able to replace elements quickly and cheaply, these sort of things become important. And we think that that furnace will do, for the amount of things that we're planning to run through it, will do fine, relatively inexpensively and reliably for the foreseeable future. We will have to increase capacity in the future sometime, depending upon how we go. We hope to be able to simply go to stripping the resin and reactivating it and reusing it. We think that we can do that in much larger batches and hopefully with better efficiency. Currently, losses are unacceptably high, 20 to 50% losses, depending upon which process is being. I think we got rid of the worst loss was in the drying process. I think we've figured out how to eliminate that. But we will see what we can do in terms of getting it out of the resin, either while it's still wet, which is what you would do if you were stripping the resin, or if we were smelting it or ashing it in some way, then drying it properly and seeing if we can come up with a low loss methodology there. We are not where we are happy at this point. We do not have the throughput and efficiency that we desire or anywhere close at this time, but we're confident that we'll figure out a way in the future. Let's see. Anything else?
That covered it pretty good, I think.
Eva's still happy in the lab. You could probably tell that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. I mean, the more you learn, the better it gets, and the
Well,
maybe you pick up on something that you did overlook. You never know.
you may have noticed she's a bit OCD about certain things.
That's okay.
In a lab person, that's good. Someone who's insisting on recording every detail works real well. Someone like myself tends to be a bit sloppy
Yeah.
and say, that's not
Me
important.
too. Yeah.
And sometimes it is important.
Push it a little bit.
Yeah.
Too much.
So I say that's good. And all in all, I would say things are proceeding pretty well. So we shall see. Wow.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Lars, are you still there?
You give up on us, Lars?
Well, that wouldn't explain why all the messages were retracted all at the same time.
That's weird.
See, there's another one. No,
That
only
one's
the
there.
last three.
Huh.
That's weird. Huh. You still there, Lars? Their last three messages all just got retracted for some reason.
I'd agree, Paul.
I'm not breaking my back, but I'm getting good exercise at the mill there because I have to move a lot of dirt to kind of rearrange things a little bit, and it's very good exercise. I actually have more back pain from sitting in front of the computer than from swinging a pick and a shovel. This might be sick.
Yeah.
I got that weird thing right there. So when I'm doing this,
Right.
it hurts.
No, sometimes working feels better than sitting around.
Definitely feels
Damn
better. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially at the end of the day, you can look and see.
Well, I think
Wow.
as sore as in that as you get, it kind of does loosen you up and get things moving. I don't.
Yeah. So, anyhow, that's the situation with me, and this guy here has just been doing mechanical stuff,
Yeah,
trying to
I've
get
been
ready.
just getting stuff ready to go hit the ground.
I don't know. I still don't see anything from Lars.
Huh.
That's funny.
Is there anything up above there?
They might have.
Yeah,
swatted,
it was
they
a-
might have swatted some of his comment. I've been hearing that's happening a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the last three of his messages disappeared. It said
Hope we
message
didn't make you
retracted.
mad.
And then there's
Yeah.
fourth from the last. It's still
Short.
sitting there. Whatever short Fargo. That must be the
Wells.
bank.
Yeah.
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 Huh.
Yeah.
That's
So-
strange.
I have no idea what happened to Lars. He's not answering. You know,
Nobody want to email him.
I got a better way than that. Where's my phone?
Just make sure you didn't drop off. I think it was out there in the kitchen on the counter, wasn't it? Or was it?
It's right here.
Yeah, I'm hoping he didn't get kidnapped by aliens.
He might enjoy that. I don't know. He's got a very dry sense of humor. I think he'll win.
He said, "I'm back." He's right there.
Okay.
Yay, you're back.
We just-
We were scared.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
seen you a bunch of your comments drop out and redact, and we were questioning what happened there.
Answer, Jeff. No, I have not noted any fluid loss. And as I'm kind of rearranging things, I'm actually pulling back the tarps at times, and so far it's been bone dry under there.
That's good.
And I'm
Then there was that poor cicada.
yeah, there was a cicada larva underneath the plastic at one point there. That was kind of funny. We threw it in the brush pile there. Hopefully he'll be able to climb down and
Figure
dig
it out.
again.
huh?
But yeah,
Huh.
yeah, had to reboot. Okay, Lars, as long as you're okay.
Yeah, we'll just do.
Yeah, we thought you went and got kidnapped by aliens or something. They couldn't take us
Got
along.
mad at us. Just cancel us out.
Yeah. But anyhow, so no, it seems to be doing pretty good. The plan is in general to pump the solution out of the pregnant pond and into tanks without letting it build up too much in the preg pond. Number one, it lets you know exactly how much you have, but also it makes sure there's no hydrostatic pressure on the liners. Any leak you have in a tank, you're going to see.
Right.
And the tanks are also on top of plastic. So, and it gravity drains into the new preg pond.
Right.
So,
yeah. So your secondary containment is your
so
system.
I say it's, I think the redesign and the expansion is going fairly smoothly. And
Have you videoed some of that?
No.
I show you afterwards.
I don't know.
Won't be able to tell.
Getting a little worried about the government.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Chris. Probably even got 2 testicles. But anyhow,
Maybe, yeah.
so as I say, that's in pretty good shape. And I'm expecting in a week or 2 to be back out in the field.
Hey, Rock Butcher,
Hey, Rock.
you missed all the fun.
Alistair hasn't answered my detailed response to him yet. I presume he's either busy and or
Out
researching
of the
stuff.
country.
You may or may not hear a timer in a while. I'm going to be cooking.
All right.
Really cooking? Ooh. Well, if they did their job right, you wouldn't know. See?
That sounds
Well,
fun.
Hey, Rock. That's more important.
That's more important than anything.
Absolutely. Anyhow, so say it's probably going to be a week or 2 before we get out in the field again and start actually mining. I would expect it'll be a couple trips before we start getting it into routine.
Yeah.
But
It'll take the first time out is remember all the right tools.
yeah, I sent him some details and asked if he had any input, and he hasn't responded. So I presume he's either busy and or he's researching some stuff. I don't know. Zioxio also suggested that and sent me the contact information to talk to the head of the department over there at Montana Tech and see if a graduate student would want to try and research how this resin and Eco Goldex works.
Note, bacon wrapped chicken cordon bleu. Mine.
Notice she did say it was for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know who's
You
important.
can feed yourself here, big boy.
Yeah.
You already ate before we started.
Huh. That's interesting.
Okay. A little bit. Having the drive shaft resplined got rid of a lot of the issues. But okay, Rock.
Cool.
And I'm more confident that it's reliable and safe now. There's just a little vibration at particular speed, it quickly dies out.
And I'm getting real fancy.
That's from Jim.
Yeah.
Anyhow. So yeah, the one thing I got to do on the truck, aside from just straightening things out and kind of reconfiguring them, is figure out where that short is in the electrical system. The lights in the back aren't on.
Oh.
They don't have power. So somewhere, I mean, I wired the whole thing myself, so it shouldn't be too hard to figure out.
Yeah, just trying to find it.
Oh yeah.
When you do, you'll say, "Oh, there it is." But
Maybe
Yeah.
it may also be
pull a new wire
in that wall.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. All you have to do is remove all the paneling, and yeah, then you'll find it. I don't know. It's so I say we'll see what happens there, but I think the truck's in good shape, and weather's been decent lately.
Yeah, it's finally starting to get to be spring here anyway.
It just snowed on us 2 days ago, but not much.
Yeah,
we were out there,
yeah,
little snowballs
well,
falling down.
Probably, I wouldn't doubt we'll see some this weekend yet, but
Yeah.
that should be about the end, close to the end of it, unless you're way up in the high country.
Yeah. So let's say once we get that engine to the RC46, the mill completely rearranged and ready to go, then pretty quick we're going to run out of ore. So we'll probably put a batch in the tank and then head down to the mine.
Yeah.
That would be the idea. Oh, well, he was, I think, only 5'3".
Yes, I'm 5'3".
Jeff, it's impossible to turn that drive shaft around because it has two different size U-joints. So in order to actually turn it around, you would have to change.
Right.
Yeah,
I clocked it different.
Yeah, I clocked it different, but that was it. He was talking about swapping ends,
right.
I believe.
No, you can't. Yeah.
But yeah, I rearranged the yokes to parallel, and that seemed to help out. Yeah. And how are you generating the ozone, Tricky?
Ozone generator.
Yeah, an ozone generator. Excuse me.
I believe they have those.
They do, but I don't know. H2O2, hydrogen peroxide is a good oxidizer.
Right.
Yeah, I said the yolks were like this.
Yeah. 90 to each other.
And that's how I took it off, took it in. It came back from the shop with the yolks like this. I turned it back that way, the way it was, still vibrating. So I pulled it out, rotated on the splines and put it back in.
Huh.
And that's it dramatically reduced it. And so there's only one little particular condition where I can get a little bit of vibration there. But that could be just because, well, I don't know, maybe it's an old truck.
Well, somebody probably replaced a U-joint at some point and turned it and didn't even look, just throw it back together.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. But anyhow, that seems to be doing okay. So I got that one electrical thing. Lauren and I, mostly Lauren, got the oil leaks fixed. You notice it doesn't sit on top of a puddle of oil anymore?
Yeah.
You believe I can go a whole week without adding oil?
That's
Wow.
good. You shouldn't have to.
Oh, man. Chris. You could be right. But you see what he says there?
Yeah.
He says flip it 180. You might have it out of phase with what they balanced it for. Yep.
Yeah, keep putting it on and off till you wear the bolts out.
It's not that hard, but yeah. All right, Tricky. Sounds good. I expect you could probably use hydrogen peroxide instead of ozone also in small quantities. But I don't know. It'd be worth a shot. They basically do the same thing.
Ricky's got to say hi to all the babies.
That'll be interesting to hear what you're doing.
Tell him
Tricky.
yourself.
Tricky, you got to say hi to all the babies and give them hugs and kisses.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, Chris. So we'll see how things go. But anyhow, we're going to be doing a lot of experimenting. We've actually got people on 3 continents working on the problem. We got Tricky in the Philippines. Four. Tricky in the Philippines. Ned Gruber's not on tonight. I hope he's doing okay.
Oh, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, he was feeling poorly last
I
week.
seen he commented on that other video, though, I believe,
Yeah.
today.
And then we got Javier down there in Colombia. So we got all kinds of people working on this. Sooner or later, we'll get it figured out. That plus, hopefully, we'll soon have Montana Tech working on it too.
Maybe.
Yeah. $5 grams per hour for a 15,000-gallon swimming pool. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense for an oxygen generator. You can use that to replace chlorine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. You bubble it into the liquid, and it dissolves in it just like dissolved oxygen or CO2 in a soda pop. You know. I don't have pulse DC or high voltage, but I've got electricity. I've got a power supply. That's one reason we're going to look at the electroplating out of a stripping solution, because the electricity also provides electrons.
I got
think
some
that'll
water
be-
here.
That'll be fun to watch that part.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
I think that'll be the go-to way to go.
In the long run, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe we shall see.
Take out some of these other steps.
Yeah.
And the energy.
Why am I not surprised, Chris? Is that on that power supply, or is that something else? What is needed first, but then it's like watching paint dry.
Plating.
Plating?
Electroplating.
Oh no, I just let it do its thing and go out and do something else. Triggy says he will, little one.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
true. Yeah, you could do that way, couldn't you?
Maybe, I don't know. Say, we shall see. See, what you do, Rock, is you set up your stripping circuit, get it tuned up, and then go outside and crush a ton of rock, throw it in the tank. See, goes like that.
Yeah, that's you got that part all figured out.
Yeah. Huh. Cool. Yeah, I imagine we could find one of those. Anyhow,
There might be one laying around.
one or two.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And but anyhow, so that's our plans for the near future here. Slacker over here is just getting equipment together for some. Does it look like you're going to be doing any mining this year yet?
I
You
don't
got
know.
anything?
I don't. That still haven't heard on the exploration permit, so I don't know. I'll be helping somebody do something somewhere.
I don't think we want that around Eva, Chris. That could be painful for me. Anyhow, but that's basically where we're at. Anyone got any questions out there? Really, Roberts? Huh.
I have a question.
Eva has a question.
Why is the moon red when it's rising?
Because the light is coming through a lot more air than it is when it's overhead, and the small particles in the air block out the blue light because they have a smaller amplitude in their waveform, whereas the red light has a higher amplitude and can step over the particulates in the atmosphere. Just like, why is it sun red at sunset?
Same thing.
Same thing, scattering. Yep.
And yes, I already knew the answer to that. I just wanted to ask you a question so you wouldn't be bored.
All right, Chris, just keep me in the loop.
They float out platinum bits on H2O2. You mean actual froth flotation type? Or
That's what I'd be guessing he's talking about.
that'd be my guess, but I don't know. Oh.
Yeah. Cool.
No, Jeff, it cannot. It is not in solid particles. It is an actual solution, not suspension. Just like you can't centrifuge the water out of the ocean, I mean, the salt out of the ocean,
Right.
it will not settle. And so the answer is no. It's not a very fine suspension. It's an actual solution. Carbon sponge is the cathode. How do you get the gold off the carbon sponge? Tricky. I was thinking carbon rods right now because I could always, mechanically strip it if needed. What would you do? Like put it in aqua regia and then precipitate, or what's the plan? Ash it? Maybe. I'm a little nervous about ashing at the moment,
you'll have
but
a
yeah.
lot higher concentration.
Well, there'd be a lot
of
bigger
gold at
chunks.
Right. You'll have a better.
Yeah.
A better grade at that point, I would think, if it's works.
We'll have to see exactly what happens, because if you can get like when you saw on Street Tips, he gets his silver crystals and stuff. If you had something a lot smaller, but basically the same thing, that'd be easy to scrape off of a carbon cathode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
Rock. And I say we're looking at a number of possibilities, but I kind of keep you all updated on them as we winnow through them and show you the successes and the failures. Hopefully I'll show you a couple successes and no failures, because there won't be any failures. However,
that's always a good.
If history is any guide, that's not necessarily the way it's going to go. Don't they just smelt it? They can. The problem with smelting stuff is if the gold is in real fine particles, it can go up the smokestack.
Yeah, volatilize.
Yeah.
Pure gold electrodes out of a plating gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a little gold contamination, gold will tend to float because it's already a bit hydrophobic. Ooh, that's bad, Rock. Oh, that's bad. Street Tips likes his Sharpie. Well, yeah, but to get salt out of solution, you can't centrifuge it. You have to evaporate it. Then it forms particles that can separate. But if it's actually in solution, it will never settle.
And that's what he's dealing with.
Dawn dish soap works. I found that, Finish. What is that?
Yeah.
Jet dry.
Jet dry or finish. Yeah.
Jet dry will do the same thing with less foaming.
Yeah. Pull out the surface tension and.
Yeah.
Plus, it'll cut a little bit of grease or oil or anything that could be a contaminant.
Yeah. Now, Tricky, you could also take that sponge and then use it as the anode in an electroplating bath, electroplating cell. Yeah. Enough silica and Lead and iron collecting rod, won't that help reduce burn off? Hasn't yet, Roberts. You know, that's been our issue. We've tried a lot of things, and it's we can prevent almost all losses if we flux it like you would a rock that you were fire assaying, and then, you know, burn it up while you're assaying it. That seems to get us pretty good recovery. But to ash it first, that we just seem to get lots of losses. That's why we use only 10-gram samples.
Blind dude, if you're doing it in like a recirculation system or anything, adding salt to your water will help to break up the clay. Or Dawn dish soap will work to a certain extent. I found salt to be the best. Bring up the salinity of the water, and you will start to break up the clay.
A lot of agitation in water and steel ball, that would
That's
grind up the material. The problem is we need to oxidize the resin. That's one of the problems, is that the resin has to go bye-bye. So we've been trying to, the litharge is being completely converted to lead. We put in 60 grams of litharge and get like 57 grams of lead. So it's clearly a reducing environment in there.
Yeah.
We've, I think, isn't the best one we've come up with so far with a little bit of potassium nitrate in it too, little one?
Yep.
Yeah. Seems so far the best recovery we've got. We've added, we've got borax, silica, soda ash, litharge, some incorporated silver, and a little bit of potassium nitrate. That's correct, Paul.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the opposite of an oxidizing circumstance. Yep. You could possibly do something like that, Jeff, but to dry the leach solution would be incredibly time consuming and energy intensive.
That's that worst part, the energy.
But if you're talking about a stripping solution, then if you create the right stripping solution, it should be easy to electroplate out of it. So that shouldn't be a big problem. Oh, you're welcome, Tricky. Do we roast our ore? No. The ore we have right now is thoroughly oxidized. There's no need to roast it. When we get deeper, assuming we do get deeper, we may run into some sulfide, but at this point, there is no sulfides at all. It's all completely oxidized. And Tricky's talking about the guy who makes the KD3 solution. Oh, let me get that. There we go.
What are you grabbing?
Oh, some of this stuff. Now, somebody used to make a gold test, okay, which had a leaching solution and an indicator solution, which basically precipitated the gold out of the leach.
Old miner's got another question.
0% of our ore is sulfides.
Yep. It's oxidized ore.
Anyhow, this stuff here, KD3 indicator solution, the guy doesn't produce this stuff anymore. He used to make those kits and everything. He's in Idaho.
Yeah.
But he still has some left around.
Yeah.
And so the people who used to sell it gave me his information. You take 1 drop of this and a 1/2 ml of Eco Goldex.
Yeah.
Let it dry. You'll see if there's gold in it.
Really?
Yeah. Seriously, dude.
So is he selling you the
That's-
formula?
No, that's $50. I got 2 of them. So I got
Yeah,
years
but if
worth.
he isn't going to make it anymore, you definitely want it.
Well, Tricky might have got it. I don't know. Yep. And so that gives another thing Eva can do, which is test the solution samples for the amount of gold.
Gold. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's rough, and not suitable for quality control sort of stuff, but it's good for is it working sort of decisions. For example, what's coming out of the resin columns? Has it got a lot of gold or just a little gold? You take a sample at the beginning, a sample at the end, dry them
Right.
out, say, okay, what's happening
Yeah.
here? If there's too much getting through, well, you need to switch resin.
Yeah.
$7 on a fire assay to find. I don't know where you spend $7 on a fire assay. Wow.
Well, you have to be in your own lab because
Yeah. I got enough. We can test some stuff, Chris. You can use stannous chloride solution, but this works about 3 times more in terms of the result that you can see.
right.
Okay. Yeah, we could. It's hard to find the gold in solution. We can do it for 1 drop of this. So this is 16 ounces. How many drops per mil? I think it's 20 drops per mil, if I'm not mistaken. And that's basically half a liter. So it's 500 times 20, 10,000. So we take $50 divided by 10,000. For half a cent, I can get actionable intelligence using this stuff for the Eco Goldex solution. Okay. It's real simple. Once you have clear solution, you may have to settle it or filter it or centrifuge it or whatever. And Lauren's got a centrifuge I could probably borrow if I asked.
Yeah.
But anyhow, you take the clear solution, put a half a milliliter of that in a spot plate, put 1 drop of this in the spot plate, let it evaporate, and read a result. Sensitivity is down to about 1 part per million before you can't see it anymore. And then say we'll make a series of samples. I've got some stuff that's running 30 parts per million, 30.4 parts per million, nice clean solution. And that's the Gold Hunter KDT. Yep. And it's more qualitative than quantitative. It's you got a little, you got a medium amount, you got a lot, whatever. It's a rough calorimetric test, not an either or, like an indicator solution of phenolphthalein gives you a yes it is or no it isn't basic.
Yeah.
This is there's this much gold basically. And so one of the things Eva's got to do is we'll be diluting that standard, well, not standard, but some solution we have that's been sitting around a while. It's been assayed and it's been sitting around so long it's nice and clear. And so she can just make that up. So we got 30 parts per million. We can go 30, 15, 7.5, and like that.
The results
pretty easy. And then
gauge it.
Well, we'll take a spot plate. You write all that stuff.
Right.
When we first got it, remember, said your spot plate is spotless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had done all that with gold chloride solution at Lauren's.
Yeah.
And then Clara was cleaning up and everything, and I'd left it there. And so she was cleaning up all the dirty labware. She did.
She did.
So anyhow, I understand. Tricky. I say, well, we'll worry about it. Chris would probably be pretty interested. I got plenty for now. I don't douse. I think you do.
I've used dowsing, Paul. I've had some luck with it as far as kind of delineate and figuring out the mineralization lines kind of in a drainage or anything. I haven't actually used it to walk over and dig up a nugget per se, but I've used it for trying to figure out where the lines of mineralization kind of cut off.
You're using the wrong dowsing rod.
Well,
If you get a mine lab dowsing rod.
I wasn't so sure it was real until I was able to kind of flag areas and then take the excavator and literally dig them and test
expose the
and
rock,
say, you know what, this actually is. And even on some hard rock, we did some trench sampling across the hillside, and every 10 foot we took assay samples across at about a 3-foot depth across the face, and the dowsing rods were able to lay out the parameter, the perimeters end to end. In this case, it was a 110-foot zone of mineralization.
Was there any visual delineation you could see?
Only in the middle. We had some marbleized limestone coming up, which we kind of figured was probably a cap. Because of the intense heat and pressure that would have created that.
Yeah.
But the outside edges, no, there was too much ground cover to to prove out. But by using dowsing rods, I was able to basically walk a line and find it at one edge and walk across it and find the other edge. And then we did our trench sampling and went 10 feet past on either end of that. And it was right. Based on our assays and everything, it was correct. And I'm like, wow. Okay, there is some truth to the fact that
we're going to try get him out to Montana Bee sometime and see what he comes up with too. But that's not a high priority at the moment. We both got to get stuff going. Yep. Now the only test I have tells me there may or may not be any gold. Well, when we will be able to actually fire assay rock samples if we wish. But you can also take the same indicator and do an aqua regia digestion of the rock and then extract it into methyl isobutyl ketone and evaporate the MIBK over this. And you also get a result. Say it's modest precision, but I mean, it should be adequate to say is that high grade. Is it low grade to a stockpile, or is it waste?
Right.
I call it actionable intelligence.
Yeah, same thing here, Tricky. I used to use it for finding sewer lines and water lines and electrical lines under the ground and stuff. And I just thought I would try it for minerals, and it, whether that's what it's picking up or some anomaly with the minerals, I don't know, but you can start to, something about the gravels that carry minerals will set those rods off.
I don't know. I'm perfectly willing to try it and see what works.
Let's find pockets of diamond-bearing gravels.
I've talked to a lot of people that seem to be honest people, like Jim here, and another guy I used to work with and stuff, and they said, yeah, done it. I was never in a situation where I was observing them do it, but I got no reason to believe you're lying.
No, I at first was like, well, I don't know if it'll work, but it's worth a try. And then we did it on a couple other properties and had the same response. And it's like, well, it'll give you those outside perimeters of where the mineralization drops off.
Oh, he says something about a Robert Shrewsbury channel. Is that a YouTube channel? Oh, goodness. Where's my little... Man, I had some paper. There it is.
Interesting. I say use anything that'll get you there. Try. You never know what tool, is going to get you there. But
yeah, if it works, that's all that matters.
Huh. You know, I try to keep an open mind just because, you know, hey, if it'll work or if it'll tell me something, it's one more piece of knowledge as you're making notes
That's like when
and
Eva's,
marking stuff out. And then, you know, then the part is dig it and find out, or, you know, assay it or whatever.
Eva's like using her intuition
Uh,
on what tests to run. And so she says, I'd like to do this. And I can say, no, that's not going to work, or good work.
Okay.
I don't know.
right. Try
Or
it.
that would be pretty dangerous
Yeah,
to
well,
try.
sometimes you just have to try stuff, you know.
Well, let's see if we mix nitric acid,
well,
concentrated
certain-
sulfuric,
yes.
and resin beads. I wonder if that would extract the gold. You know what happens then?
Start burning things up.
Well, the nitric acid oxidizes organic stuff. The concentrated sulfuric absorbs water. I mean, it just grabs water viciously. And so if you take, well, let's say cotton balls, and you put it in that mixture, you wind up with nitrocellulose. Yeah, called gun cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I say when she comes up with an idea, you know, before she just goes out and
Yeah,
does
right.
it, she says,
Yeah.
does
Just a minute.
does this make any sense or whatever?
Smear under the bucket so the pot. Gravity transfer something.
Huh.
I would believe that, Rock Butcher, because there's been times even doing placer that whoever's doing the digging needs to really pay attention as to whether it's really bedrock or there's soft spots within the bedrock. That's interesting. I'll have to try when we're on bedrock someday somewhere.
Yeah, give it a shot. Was there anything you had to do to direct the dowsing efforts specifically towards diamonds?
No, they were going mainly for probably the mineralized zone of gravels.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard people say if you want to douse for gold, you need to put
I've heard
gold
that
on the
too.
rod.
Yeah, I've heard that too. You know,
I don't know.
You kind of, I don't know, use your mind supposedly. And maybe there's some truth to that too. I don't know. There's a lot of things about the world and ourselves we probably don't know.
Hi, Ricky. Yeah, I don't think it's the dowsing rods that do it. I think it's the person. Otherwise, it would work for anyone with dowsing rods.
Well, that's true, because some people can't make them do anything.
And
so
that's, you know, but whatever is happening,
hey, Ricky,
affects the rods.
Yeah.
And that could even be, in some cases, or probably most cases, just subconscious movements of your hands.
yeah, but they'll pull. I mean, when you can't stop them if they start pulling. You can hang, you could hold them as tight as you want, and they'll still turn.
If you get in a situation like that, I'd love to put a scale on it.
It's interesting
Because now it was funny. Here's another thing too.
Or they'll go closed or open. Or that sounds like a plan, Lars.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'd love to see if we could measure that.
I don't know how you.
My ex-wife said that one time her dad was dousing for water and got such a strong thing that it burned his hands. So he wrapped toilet paper, they were camping, around it, and she said it started smoking. And I see that's a pretty objectively observable phenomenon. Yes, the paper in his hands is smoking where it's touching the rods. I would say something is happening that's not readily explained by our current understanding.
I have no explanation for it.
Yeah. I say these are the things that fascinate me.
It just some reason it works for me, and it's something I use.
Well, and that's fine.
And I had at one point I had looked at a gold mine, a hard rock mine, gold and silver, and I thought, okay, the veining is, I kind of had it figured out on the strike direction on the mountain. And I thought if I worked it backwards with my dowsing rods back and forth across the mountain, could I pick it up down by the creek at the bottom of the mountain?
Makes sense.
I had a whole pocket full of flags, and I doused across, back and forth, zigzagging down the mountain and setting my width, and everything stayed consistent right to where I got to the creek. I started looking at the creek bank, and these old guys, when they hit that from the creek, they drifted right in on that vein right at the creek level. And I'm like, it works, because there's no way they could have found it, at the top of the mountain, the bottom. They had to have been dowsing. They had to have done the same thing that I did.
Could have. Yeah.
Huh. I've never seen it done, Paul, with 3 rods, but it could very well be. Maybe your body is the third, the neutral. I don't know.
No, I think what he's saying is you can have 3 different kinds of rods, and that they will be, for example, let's just say there's positive and neutral, and one might cross and the others might go the other way at the exact same thing.
Because I've used brass brazing rods, just clean brazing rod. And I've used copper welding rod too, copper rods too. And both of them seem to work for me.
Yeah. So it would be, I'd love to test this sort of thing, because to me, I was raised in a rational scientific environment, but any rational scientist knows there's stuff you don't know.
Right.
And so you're going to run into things that you don't understand by definition. Well, but that's where the interesting shit is.
Yeah, right. Is the unknown. I think I brought it up before on this channel. At one time, I was at this guy's place looking for this sewer system, and it was an old home built probably in the late 1800s, 1900, and they had no idea where the septic was.
Uh-huh.
They knew there was one, but that's about it. And the guy who owned it was a physics professor at the University of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And when he seen me walking across the yard with dowsing rods, he about blew a gasket. He's like, that can't work. There's no way that can work. And I went out there with my spray paint can, and I spray painted like 3 different places of where I had hits and readings. We brought the backhoe in. The first one was an old sewer system, clay tile, and it had been abandoned.
Yeah.
The next one we got to was a water line coming from a windmill to the house. There must have been a cistern under the house at some time or something. And when I finally found a sewer, but the fact I picked all 3 of them out with dowsing rods and then dug the holes was freaking him out.
And there were no blank holes.
Yeah, no, they were all hits.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe it.
Yeah. See, they will cross for water and open for electricity cables. Let's say, I don't know. I've tried it. I haven't gotten any results. I don't think.
I've seen
have
guys,
you ever tried dowsing, little one?
I've seen guys douse with some other canisters and stuff too, and I kind of know what it's about, but I've never tried it personally.
I've done scrying, but it's hit or miss.
Yeah. And so let's say I'd love to do it someday.
Yeah, we can definitely do it.
Because that's
something I try to keep with me in the truck.
Yeah.
Just in case.
I'd love to try that sometime. Would be, because this is another thing that's interesting to me. They had a guy in Tucson who's a PhD or whatever. He was actually investigating things like this on a scientific basis and getting some results that he claimed were 6 sigma chance, which is 1 in 10,000 or whatever. But it's not very effectively, Chris.
Evidently not, Chris. The answer is no.
But anyhow, so I'd love to see, why hasn't anyone done it? And part of it is because the societal gestalt, if you're a PhD professor and you rationally investigate something, well, then you must be crazy. Like,
right?
I mean, the professor.
I already know I am. So
yeah, but this guy that you did this for,
right?
See, if that would have been me, I would have been going, cool. let's see what else you can do
Well,
instead of being freaked
no,
out.
he was just like, this is just goes against everything he understood.
No, it doesn't. What
Well,
it goes
or
against everything he
but
understood
thinks he-
because they thought that was all there is.
Right. Anyway, I just laughed it off.
When I and another thing that is funny is nowadays if you got a scientist or whatever who says we know how it all works, then you just ask him what's dark matter, what's dark energy, because according to the modern scientific
Right.
theories of reality,
There's
85% of the universe we can't detect
Understand.
except indirectly, and we have no idea what it is. Well, I hate to tell you, that doesn't mean you know shit.
no, you're missing something somewhere.
If you had a map that was 85% blank, you wouldn't say, I know the terrain,
I know where we are.
you know?
They have for thousands of years they've used it,
Yeah.
Especially for water wells, witching for water. And
But see, wouldn't it make sense in a non-technological society, assuming that metaphysics is real, parapsychology is real, there's some there, that some people would be able to find water just by knowing where it was, just like some people
Well,
can find game.
you could guess your way to finding it too, and believe that you're a genius. But
Yeah.
well, that's just how it is, Rock. I don't think in this field of minerals and gold and that, I don't think you could ever know it. I don't think you'd ever come close to knowing it all. Because the minute you thought you did, you'd be on a property that's completely backwards of everything you thought you knew.
Making a Miller
Miller
table,
table, yeah.
on a tiny scale. I don't say 12 inches is a tiny scale for a Miller table. It's about the size I usually see them, about 12
Yeah,
inches
usually,
long.
the Miller tables.
Yeah. Yeah, chalkboard for real, blind dude. Old slate chalkboard. You could even use the chalkboard paint nowadays.
Yeah. Just want a real smooth surface to work with.
Yeah, preferably sprayed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, Rock. Yeah, the minute you do quit learning, it's over. The game's over. That's partly why I think that's part of why I like doing what I do. Is you're always learning and delving into deeper and deeper.
It's not boring routine.
It's not, no.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No, boring is sitting on the excavator just feeding the wash plant or just digging a hole. But
Stop using obscenities in front of my wife. We're probably, most of us, that way, or we wouldn't be here. Because you have to have a different kind of personality to be a prospector, small gold miner, whatever.
Well, you have to be curious enough, and you have to have some drive to even want to, put the effort in. But once you get past that part, or if you already have that, that part's easy. You just want to be in the field or want to be out doing something.
What can I hook to my Sawzall to make a small shaker table? Well, you could get ribbed floor matting or whatever and put it on a rigid surface. That would work. Or you could notch it with a circular saw set to almost no depth of cut.
Blind dude, you can look up some blueprints for building a table as to how they can be adjusted and everything. And as far as the Sawzall for with some bump stops or something to give you that little bit of shake and everything, it would be doable. It would be doable.
I prefer the plastic to a piece of wood.
You could do a fiberglass. All the old tables years ago were all fiberglass.
Yeah, but I'm talking about something really Yeah. I got some 1/2 inch plastic. I forget what the name of the plastic company was, but I ordered a sheet of it and this and that. And it worked pretty good for what I was doing. That I think you'd have to get a little experience. But again, Terry, this is why it may be, what are you focusing on? Because I suppose it's something about you that's actually finding whatever it is using the dowsing methodology. And maybe just by focusing your mind on a particular thing,
It could be.
you can. I don't know. Why did you find gold instead of minerals when you're? What were you thinking of?
Gold.
Okay, see,
But and I've got a friend that has actually been doing metal detecting for years and years and years, and that's what he always says to me. Well, look at the property and douse it with your mind before you go there. Go out onto that area or whatever.
yeah. See, that
And I'm
doesn't
like-
work for me. But
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, let me think that through. But part of it probably is from years and years of him being in the field, though. He kind of has something will stick out to him, and that's why he's there.
Well, and you can.
But those are things you can't teach,
Well, and the other thing is too, how could you tell the difference between dowsing, real dowsing, and subconscious observation of subliminal cues?
Well,
It would look the same.
You can't.
I don't know.
It's something you can't teach somebody necessarily. You start picking up on little things that nobody else would even look at. It wouldn't register.
I actually prefer a medium blue, Chris, because your black sands show up on it and your gold shows up on it fine. The black sands are hard to see.
Yeah, I like the blue pans as far as panning.
So if I was on a table where I've got streams of different stuff, I like the blue. You can always paint it black, blind dude. That's what I did.
The other thing for any of you guys out panning or anything, always be open to the idea of finding something besides the gold too, though, because that's another thing that if you overlook a diamond placer or something, you'd feel pretty stupid to find out your buddy was over there where you were last month.
Around here, sapphire.
Yeah, you're right, and found some really good stuff.
Sapphires or garnets or something good.
Yeah. Well, Chris did it again. Already got a link up.
God,
He's good at that.
How many computers are you running at the same time, Chris?
4, 2 for feet, 2 for hands.
Okay, I've got it written down, Paul. I'll give it a check.
Huh. I'll look at it too, Paul. I'm always interested in funny stuff.
Yeah. So to me, the stuff that's like, well, we don't know how that works. Is like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. What's going on here?
Yeah. That shouldn't happen. Oh, really? Interesting. It's kind of like that. The gold seems to be evaporating at just, low oven temperatures.
I don't believe that. It could happen, I guess, but
you don't.
I know there's something wrong with that theory. I really think it's being absorbed in that resin or something, and it's just not coming out.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
They're locked. It's getting locked by heating the resin or something.
Yeah. The thing is
that can only lead to terror, Terry.
the thing is, if you dry it on the tabletop first, it doesn't seem to happen. And when we're done firing it, the beads are all gone.
I don't know. There's just something about it.
It sure sounds weird to me too. Yeah.
Well, we want to see it when you get it done, blind dude, just like last time.
Sweet. Nice, Lars. Thanks you.
Cool, Lars.
You take care, Tricky. Lars has that RP4 up and running, little one.
He's got it reworked already.
Yep.
Good for you.
Yep.
See you later, Tricky.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks for being here again tonight, and to all you guys.
Yeah.
This
Here, this will make.
cutting board.
Well, let me see.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Oh, got to look now, Chris.
Let's see what Chris is doing here.
Tweak that. There, blue plastic cutting board.
Yeah,
10
it's
by
textured
24
though.
by 1/2.
Yeah. Cuttingboards.com. Why am I not shocked?
Blue and decent size.
No, Paul. You can't lay your silver down and douse it or lay your ore down and douse it. Somebody else has to do it when you can't possibly see it,
Well, yeah, the
and do it in such a way that you can't tell where it's been set. For example, take an area, say 15 by 15, that's fairly soft soil and just soil, like it's been rototilled, and then go out there and have him put some stuff and then rake it all evenly. Then you'd have a good test. I had a friend of mine, he's like,
blind. It's got to be a blind test.
he says, I can
But-
douse the silver bars. Well, where is it? Right there where I buried it. And it's like, yeah, I say that's, you got to do a blind test. Otherwise you prove nothing. Because if you know where it is, it's going to work,
Yeah. No, you get blind test is the way to test. But,
Absolutely.
I never believed it till we were able to take and excavate and
Gourmet
actually,
food.
do actual tests to say, you know what, fairly accurate.
She came out here with food,
Yeah,
goes,
food.
gourmet food in front of my face.
Run. Then run.
Man, that's
Gourmet
harsh.
food.
and
You
then
can
run.
have some leftovers.
Then run.
That could happen too. The other night we were over at Lauren's and Clara had made some stuff.
Oh,
and Eva
boy.
put too big a chunk of meat on her plate. So, I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm still a little bit hungry, and I'm looking at that big chunk of meat on Eva's plate, and I go, no, better not eat anything more.
Smell bacon.
Sure enough, she didn't make it. Could be.
Yeah, for some reason, rock, it does for me too. So it is one of the tools I use. Trying to figure stuff out. It's
I know.
you can, it's one of those things, you either believe in it or you don't. And
I believe it's possible. I've never done it myself, but I haven't really tried.
I
it
got
that
some
often.
places that I kind of want to do it here that I'm going into this. Yeah.
Well, and as I say, try and take some video.
I'm gonna. I have the camera charged up and I have extra batteries, and I will be doing,
Yeah,
provided the weather cooperates every day, I should get a lot done.
we were out there the other day, and at the mill, and I
Hail's coming sideways.
prepped the area for where I wanted to lay some plastic. No, the wind was kicking like 25 miles an hour. And I'm like, I think we're going to do it another day.
That's right, Paul.
I'm not a disbeliever, Rock Butcher.
Oh, it's just you question things, and it's
Yeah. Say I simply suspend opinion until I have sufficient data to form one. Table saw would be okay. Radial arm saw too, depending on how long you need them.
Yep.
I just no opinion. And I mean, people may not understand, but that's exactly what it is. No opinion. I don't have enough data. It sounds cool. I'm hopeful that it's true, but I don't know. I'd love to go out there, and this character goes out there and just makes it, it's like, yeah, I've seen it done. But, I'm fairly confident it does happen. The one guy I know that thought he could douse couldn't. It wasn't surprising to me because he was way too emotionally involved in it. For example, he would douse maps.
Oh yeah. See, that gets a little deep for me. Not to say maybe it works. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that is taking it a little far for me.
Well, the thing is too, he would sit there and go, you know, where are my fingers on the map? Is it to the right or left? And it's, he's
Yeah.
scrying is what it's called. But it's like, well, you can see the damn map. You know what it's supposed to say. Yeah. Well, I can't disagree with you from the evidence I've personally seen, but
yeah, I'm with you there, Rock. That
Well-
one goes a little bit too far out there for me.
well, he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's dead now.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of these people that was kind of,
Yeah.
finding treasure. I mean, I spent a lot of time hiking some hills in southern Arizona
Study
with
the
him,
country.
looking for the treasure because he'd, do his research and stuff. It's like, yeah, I think it's in this little area right here. So we'd go to that little area and look. Wouldn't find anything. It's like, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he'd keep finding a different spot.
You might have freaked out if you'd have pulled a metal detector out though and found a treasure, huh?
We were looking for 300 burro loads of silver.
Well,
That's a little more than a metal detector thing, huh?
yeah, but that wouldn't you just what? How in the hell did that work?
Yeah.
But,
I say, nice guy. Learned some interesting stuff from him. Had some fun, but I think he was delusional when it came to his dowsing abilities.
well,
But it was pretty
I
obvious.
just have used it, and I know for me it can work.
Yeah.
And
I say,
it's
in his case, it's like, yeah. Now with you, see, like I asked you, could you see the edges
no,
that you were dowsing? You're like, no.
no,
We had
not
to dig it
until
with a
when
backhoe.
we dug it, we could see the change in rock and every formation. But
I've
when
seen water.
and then we
work.
went, like I say, we went 10 feet beyond where I flagged it on each side so we could take assays from farther out as
Yeah.
well
But-
to see. Well, then the assay tests at every 10-foot interval showed exactly that 110-foot.
Yeah, here's what I'm
Yeah.
saying he would have done. There's this obvious mineralized zone and
Right
clean
here.
bedrock,
Right.
and he's walking across it. And
Yeah.
see, it proves it works. Dude, I can do that with my eyes.
Right.
I can tell where it is.
I can see this.
Yeah.
I've seen water witches at work before. Dowsing for water. I've never seen anybody who doused for gold, but I've known plenty of people who can douse for water.
Yeah, it's called Clark's Law, Rock Butcher. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Okay, that's Clark's Law, and it was Arthur C. Clarke, yes. And I don't know if it was him, but somebody else made the suggestion that take a cruise missile from today, take it back to 1930, and give it to the
Yeah.
scientists,
Yeah.
And he says, okay, they see the warhead. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Contact view. What are these black boxes? He says they got wires coming in and out.
And a circuit board.
It does something, but they wouldn't even have instruments that could visualize the components of the circuits.
Right.
The integrated
Right.
chip
Yeah.
circuit chips. They couldn't see that. All they had was optical microscopes. And
Yeah.
he says what would really confuse him is a waveguide. Okay. Now, I don't know if you know this. A waveguide is a hollow tube. It's metallic, and you pump microwaves in one end, radio waves, and they'll be bounce around. It's like an optical fiber for radio waves. But it's an empty tube. What does it do? You see?
Yeah.
Back then they'd be going like, what the hell is going on
What
here?
is this?
And so that's, they are, once you know that they're supposed to guide radio waves. Yeah. And that's the funny thing is, you get new stuff and it's like, I mean, how many of stuff I remember, we will never be able to visualize the surface of a sun, another star. We will never be able to see planets around other stars. What else was there? I forget, but there's, I think it was Isaac Asimov says, if a gray-bearded old scientist tells you something is impossible, he's very probably wrong. If he tells you it's possible, he's very probably right.
Yeah.
you know, you know, and that's just one of those things that now they routinely detect. I mean, they've detected thousands of planets around other stars, and sometimes they've actually even imaged them. But they've imaged the surface of Betelgeuse, you know, and stuff like that. I forget. They had some analogy because they imaged the black hole at the center of the M87 galaxy and then the one in the center of our galaxy. And it says the equivalent of trying to image, I think it was a thumbtack on the moon. That's the size of the disk you're looking at, you know? And that's the sort of thing that they just invented a technology that nobody thought of at that time. They didn't think, well, how do you make an interferometer the size of the planet? You know, how do you link those? Well, they don't link them. They take the data and hook it up to atomic clocks as a timekeeper, and then they just literally they carry hard drives. They get on board an airplane with a hard drive and carry it to a central center, and they say, you know, at this point in time, this telescope saw that, this telescope saw that, and then do their processing, and do it that way. Yeah, Paul, not bad. So I say you can't travel faster than the speed of light. Not using conventional acceleration, but how about they've already demonstrated at least one technology, the Alcubierre drive, that technically possible. Initially, they said, yeah, you'd need to have the energy equivalent of a star to power it. But then they came up with a little, modification. Oh, now you're only talking about, the entire power output of the Earth, and stuff. But nevertheless, and we don't know how to do that. But I've seen cold fusion. Yeah. You've heard it was a hoax. It was just BS, right?
Yeah.
How come Mitsubishi Heavy Industries invested in it? Do you think they're idiots?
Nope.
No, I don't think they're idiots. From what I've been able to see, real serious scientists are saying, yep, we can tell something's happening here.
Right.
We're getting transmutation of elements. We're getting anomalous power outputs and stuff like that. The Mitsubishi people, they're looking mainly at burning up nuclear waste, transmuting the waste into something else. But, the whole idea that it's
enough science.
BS is like, no.
Probably, in the future, I'm sure we'll have more things that we'd have never imagined could happen.
Look at this.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, we're talking with how many people? 11 people all around the planet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Piece of cake.
Right
and
here.
The thing is, we're
desk.
not the military. We're just Jim
Yeah.
and Keith sitting in an apartment. And there's nothing really odd about what we're doing, And all these other guys are just ordinary people. Oh, yeah.
And not very long.
Yeah. I remember if you wanted a mobile telephone, you had to have it installed in your car, and most of the stuff went in the trunk because it was too big.
Huh.
I've looked at Mud Fossil and not terribly impressed. Okay. I disagree with many of his theories. Okay. I've been underground a lot. What I see doesn't match his theories very well. Okay. So there's everybody can't be right.
No.
What happens when everything goes to hell and the rapture hasn't happened yet? Then the born again Christians are going to be like, whoa, we were supposed to be raptured.
First, you have to
Not
go
if
back,
Eva doesn't let them, Lars.
you have to go back and understand the verbiage because you may have it wrong somewhere too.
Obviously, we misinterpret it.
Yep.
I mean, I read
Yeah.
Revelations once, and I'm reading this. I'm going, this is way too ambiguous. Because first of all, nothing is specific. It's not like
Right.
2042 years after the death of our Lord and Savior, Fred Johnson is going to, there's nothing like that. It's like, well, there's 7, beasts with 7 seals and this and that. And it's so much, and everything has to stand for something.
Right. So you have to
But
be able to.
how do you know what
interpret
the code
Right, well,
is?
that's the thing.
You
You can't interpret it.
Yeah. So, as far as I'm concerned, anything that is that ambiguous can be interpreted any way you want.
Mm-hmm.
They've done analyses, and who's that guy? Nostradamus.
Yeah.
You hear Nostradamus was
predicted this or that.
Have you ever read some of his shit?
Yeah. Can't understand it.
It's just gobbledygook.
You can interpret it 1,000 different ways.
Exactly. It's like, since it has no specific meaning, it can mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Anybody else have any mining questions?
got a little bit off, but at least it isn't obscene. That's happened in the past. Yeah, well, you're lucky, Rock. Mine isn't even good.
Good and short.
Halifax, Nova Scotia. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I have my suspicions one way or the other, which I won't say on YouTube. Yeah. Oh.
Damn. Well, guys, it's been a great night.
Yeah.
Good questions. And
We'll try and get this slacker out there dowsing
Yeah.
sometime and
oh yeah.
see what he comes up
Well,
with.
now that we can finally start to get out in the field, get past all this, get everything ready stuff.
Has this been an unusually windy spring?
Yes. We've
Okay.
had a lot of wind this year.
Yeah, it seemed pretty windy, but it's like, I've heard that there's a place in here called Great Falls,
North
where
area.
if the wind isn't knocking you off your feet, it's a calm day.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
most of eastern Montana and North Dakota is like that too.
really.
Yeah, probably Canada's probably like that too.
That was for you.
If I just rough classify Jeff, I'll just go to 1/4-inch screen. Look for any nuggets above that, and then take everything else for further processing. Because even with my RP4 table, I can run 1/4-inch. I got a screen set up on it. I can run 1/4-inch material on my,
And by the way, there are
scour it on the
leftovers.
table even. So anything finer, you get a chance to grab it. Well, blind dude, if you have any more questions, just keep bringing them on Monday nights. We'll keep you building all the fun little toys. That shaker you came up with there, I thought that was a pretty cool idea for a quick build. Any more questions, guys? Bring them up and Yeah. It's unfortunate that we have clowns running the country, isn't it?
Yeah. Running the world now. Unfortunately, they have power to do stuff, so they're dangerous clowns. It's not very funny, unfortunately. Oh. You're welcome, blind dude. Ooh. Ugh. Anything else? Last night I came across a vid Keith did the night before the eclipse. Did they make the gold and silver recoverable?
Are we're digging for questions now, aren't we?
I'm trying to remember, when was the eclipse? About a week ago?
I don't.
Yeah, that might have been the 5 gram gold button.
It might have been. Would have been.
I'm trying to think.
It wasn't.
I don't see any there. Recover silver on parting acid. That might have been the one. No, that was just yesterday. This resin is a strong base anion resin. Max water 104133. And that's about all I know either, except it really grabs the gold out of Eco Goldex. It's an ion exchange resin. Yeah, I couldn't see it from my place, blind dude. There was clouds right in that half of the sky.
Eastern Oregon.
What was the title of that video, Jeff? Have any idea?
Whose mine in Eastern? Were you in Eastern Oregon at somebody's mine?
Oh, that eclipse, the solar eclipse. Yeah, that was. Oh gosh. Yeah. And no, I did not make the gold. They did not make the gold and silver recoverable that I am aware of. Gosh, what's the name of that place? It's in southeastern Oregon. If you go up the freeway about 60 miles from where it crosses the river into Oregon, and then head inland about 20 miles. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was arsenic. Yeah. It was arsenopyrite. I don't know. I haven't heard anything in years about that one. They were looking at concentrating the ore and then selling the concentrate, but it's going to cost them 50% of the gold. And when you're looking at 5 ounces to the ton, that gets pretty painful. So I don't know.
I guess it depends on your mining costs. It could still be profitable, but
yeah, the guy in the other side of Oregon there that we did on the way up to Alaska when we were trying to do that, he's also got an arsenopyrite ore. Well, Rock, you can send it to my email and I can hold the other computer up to the thing. If you can't make money at 5 ounces per ton, you probably couldn't run a Circle K either. You should probably work at a Circle K. But yeah, they were just trying to find a better way because 50% premium to get it
Process.
processed was just horrendous.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, well, the feds don't make it easy to process arsenal pyrite, I'll
No.
tell you.
No.
Now, I've since found that there are some guys, I think they're up by Coeur d'Alene, and they will take your concentrates, cyanide them, and then give you your cut and your concentrates back. That way you're hauling the waste off, you know. So I forgot what it was. It wasn't horribly expensive. It was like $1,500 a ton, something like that. It wasn't a horrible fee, but yeah.
Yeah, but even if
2.4 ounces per ton every day and 400 tons per day. Well, that multiplies out very nicely.
yeah, that's
1,000 tons a day. How many employees, Rock Butcher?
well, it wasn't a huge operation by any means.
No, 400 tons per day isn't that big.
No.
You could, about 320 must have been underground then. Yeah, for that low a throughput, must have been underground. Oh, well, the
Wow.
grade itself pretty much has to be underground too. When you're digging a pit, you
Hard
can't
rock, yeah.
get it that good.
Wow.
It's not bad, Rock. Oh, yep.
Wow.
Red Lake, Saskatchewan. Yeah. Sounds about right, Rock. Ontario. Okay. That sounds
That's
even
what I
better.
was thinking, but I was trying to visualize it in my head.
Someplace up in Kanukistan.
Yeah.
Oh.
Red Lake, Ontario.
Anything else, guys?
Yeah, I think we're gonna call it a night here, guys.
Getting kind of sleepy.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's been a long day already.
Yep.
When it gets light at 5:30 in the morning, man.
Yeah, that sun is getting up early. I'll wake up and I'll look and it's pretty bright, and I'm like, oh crap! Probably get up and get on the computer at 6 o'clock.
I'm up before it's light out now.
Yeah, well, I'm rude, crude, uncouth, and according to Eva, a Philistine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just like to think of myself as a barbarian.
Okay.
You're welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Paul, for being here, and everybody else.
Hope it was educational too.
Yeah, takes all of you asking questions and putting in information to make it pretty interesting some nights.
That looks almost like voice to text screw up there, Jeff. Good night, Lars. Glad to hear you got that table going already. Nice. You don't know my wife, do you, Rock?
Thanks, Lars.
I found some gold, Paul. I'm trying to get it out of the resin now.
He's got it. It's in liquid form.
No, it's in solid form. It's
Solid.
not accessible. Not as accessible as I'd like. Yeah. Good night, Lauren.
Yeah, night, Lauren.
No, she's from Boston. You haven't even gone to university, have you, little one?
No.
No.
Of course not.
Yeah, she didn't have an opportunity.
Magic pieces of paper are not for me.
Yeah. All right, guys.
You guys take care, and
And hope to see it next Monday night, but
Yeah. Oh, anyhow,
holiday.
happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. Yep. Thank you, Jeff. You too, Rock. Oh,
Good night, all.
good night, Chris. Thanks for everything. Tink.